We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm Fight the Flat Earth and welcome back to the channel that chases stupidity into a dark alley that it does not come out of. First off, I've just hit 15,000 subscribers. Woo! Yay, excited. Thanks for joining me again, guys, for another Flat Earth debate. I have with me a gentleman called Andre Collier. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Do you want me to call you Andre or Draybone?
Yeah, you can call me Draybone. By the way, guys, I do have a YouTube channel myself. It's Draybone77 or Draybone777. Cool. Whatever way you like.
Well, I've come across Draybone on Twitter. He's been asking for live debates with Globe Believers, and they've apparently been dodging him. So I thought I'd give him the chance to come on and tell everybody why he thinks the Earth is flat. So I just think we should just get into this. Team Skeptic will be joining us at some point, and possibly Red's Rhetoric as well, so Andre can have a few people to ask questions to. I don't suppose it's really a debate tonight, more of a just an open conversation. So Andre, do you just want to take 10 minutes, introduce yourself, tell people why you think the Earth is the shape that you think it is?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Yes, and here's the reason why I do believe that the Earth is flat. I did a lot of research on it, and I've actually done experiments on it. That's what I was trying to tell the people on Twitter. I've told people this on Facebook. I actually do live streams on Facebook with Flat Earth as well. But anyway, the reason why I got into Flat Earth was because I've read books such as this right here. This is called The Game. This is a history. I'm into stuff like Freemasonry, Illuminati, things like that. Also, I read Bible as well. That was another source that I used. And I'm actually looking at things from some point of view that I have talked before. They're mostly on my face page. And also, I've used to be an electrician, you know, because people always ask, what type of degree did you have? Did you go to school? Things like that. And I tell them, yes, I did. I went to school for an electrician.
Hey, David,
and I use tools.
Sorry, could I just stop you a sec? Would you mind just refreshing your browser again? Your sound just keeps going a bit choppy. Just to make sure that everyone can hear you.
Okay,
properly.
sure.
Right, cool. Yeah, you'll pop straight back in.
Sure. Just give me a second.
Sorry, guys. Technical issues, obviously, with his connection slightly, but hopefully that should help. I've lowered the output to him as well. So, can you hear me, Draybone?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right, you sound a bit better now. All right, carry on. Sorry.
Okay, so as I was mentioning earlier, the reason why I started because, as I mentioned, read books, and then I actually do experiments as well. I used to read the Bible. I still do read the Bible daily. That was one form of me knowing that the Earth is. I also read history books as well. I mean, books that's about Freemasonry, Illuminati. This is a pretty good book right here called Car. I would definitely advise people to actually read this book, because also I used to go to school for an electrician. Yeah, people actual
hey,
education that I have. So
sorry to cut in again. The audio is still a bit choppy. Do you think you could turn off your camera and maybe that would just let the sound be a bit better?
Okay.
You should be able to just click on the
just
camera
give me
icon on your screen, and I'll put up just a picture on the screen for everyone to see, just to make sure that everyone can actually hear you. So
okay.
so if you can just click on the camera icon, and we should still be able to hear you, and that will make the audio a bit better.
Okay. Let's try. How about now? Is that better?
Okay, yeah, we should be able to hear you a bit better. Carry on, and I'll get a picture up for you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, and I am going to use the camera every once in a while here to show you that I have. But as I was stating, I read the Bible. That's part of the reason why I'm a flat earther. I've also read other religious books as well, such as the Quran. I've read this book, as I was mentioning earlier, called Pawns in the Game. It's about masonry and Illuminati. I used to go to school for electric, so I know how to tools, things like that. And people that ask me about what type of education I can tell them I was an electrician, certified, and as I mentioned, tools, and I also do science to back up the earth. I also look at government data from the U.S. and they actually say that Earth flat and rotated. Looking at information that I've seen from NASA.gov, of CIA.gov, and the U.S. military. So those are the reasons why I am a flat earther. I really get into details with it. The people that sat here on Twitter and on Facebook as well, because I've had this happen on Facebook. Ask them why I came to a debate with me live in order to discuss why I am a flat earther. They used to tell me every type of excuse as to why they don't want to. Meanwhile, I'm like, won't you hear and actually show me or talk to me so that way I know that you're actually telling the truth or not on what type of work that you've done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can actually show you some of the documents that I've actually read. And there was videos that on YouTube there. I've actually some of these documents on NASA.gov. The documents that tried to show people on Facebook and Twitter were called the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. There was also a medical model of the CH-53 helicopter, and there was another documentary that's the SR-70 Blackbird, and that was a video I actually did live stream on Facebook like about a month or two ago. So I had a few videos there, and I know you've seen video that I had on YouTube that had me stating why I was a flat earther.
Yeah, I did watch that actually, the video that you made on your old gaming channel.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a brief look through that, the reasons why you come to this conclusion. To be honest, it wasn't really anything that I've ever heard before. And a lot of the arguments is things that have been going around within the flat earth realm for quite a while. So I suppose the best thing to ask you is, what do you think is the biggest evidence that the earth is flat?
The biggest evidence that from a scientific point of view, this is why I think the earth is flat, or I say that I know it's flat. In science class, right? This is in grade school, and we're going from formal, because I do both formal and self-education as well. Science class, with the four states of matter, liquid, gas, plasma, right?
Yeah.
Well, I may go for the form of the property, okay? So what it says about liquids, it clearly states that liquids have to shape a container, and it freely goes, okay? So right there, that's the reason why I would believe the Earth actually be flat. And then on top of that, I use the Bible to actually back that. A lot of people don't that it's saying that the Earth takes or the water takes liquid state of its container.
Draybone,
You read
sorry,
in the
I'm gonna have to
Genesis.
stop you. The audio is really bad. You just keep cutting out, and I don't know what to do to fix it. Are you? Do you have any other programs that are open that could be slowing down your computer or anything? Normally, the connections on this are really good for on vMix, the software that I'm using. I mean, we can hear you,
Okay,
but it's cutting out a lot, so we seem to be missing quite a bit of what you're saying, and I just want to make sure that you're getting a fair shout.
Okay, hear me now? How about now?
Try refreshing your browser again and come back in, and see if that helps at all. Sorry about this. Obviously, the best thing to do. Sorry, guys. Let's we can't do that for an hour. Obviously.
So now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound okay. It's not jumping right now. Oh no, you've cut out again. No, he appears to be gone. Now, bear with me. I'm going to try and do something to get this sorted, guys. I can't hear or see him now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. It did have a little technical difficulties come on the computer there. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll see how we get on with this.
So properties.
No, sorry, straight away, Draybone. You're just cutting out really badly.
Liquids have to take the shape of their container.
Like,
let me do this. Hold. Okay. How about now better, or is the mic still cut out?
No, it's still cutting out. Right, bear with me. I'm just trying to see if I can get anything else to help us. Maybe I can bring your audio in on a different program, but the thing is, that's the audio that you're delivering. That's what's coming from you.
Okay, yeah. Might actually have to change this of where the actual voice is coming from. Maybe it's set here. Just 1 second here. I'm gonna change it. Set. Somewhat might be running a little slow here for today. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's go to the sound.
You're still quite choppy. All right, bear with me. Steve McRae is trying to get me some help. What kind of input is it? Sorry, guys. Bear with me, and we'll try and get this sorted.
Hey, Jeff. What's good with?
Oh, keep cutting out, buddy. I'm really sorry. It's
Oh, yeah, I'm still in the street. I was trying to change the volume on my mic and everything.
I mean, are you on a Wi-Fi or is it hardwired?
It's actually hardwired too.
Yeah,
it's on the PC.
Oh, well, you did sound.
Yeah, that is. Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to change it to my Bluetooth headset here.
Okay.
Maybe
right.
this work. Just keep on.
All right, no worries.
Hold on. Okay, let's put this in. Alrighty. Somebody says they can hear me well, and other people saying they can't hear me well.
No, it does seem to just be choppy completely. Now, bear with me. All right, if you check your Twitter DMs, I've sent you a link for Zoom video conferencing. I just want you to join that Zoom call and see if they can hear you okay on there.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like my computer is slowing down a bit.
I am sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. Hey, Steve, can you hear me? All right, I've given them the link to see if we can join on there. How do I add this to vMix?
Bro, I'm gonna call you right back, okay? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to add it. I couldn't add it as a web browser.
Hello.
He's trying a different headset right now, so we'll see how that goes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Or is it still choppy?
Oh, no, you actually sound a lot better now, Draybone.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think we sorted it, Steve. All right. All right, cheers. Bye. All right,
okay.
keep talking, Draybone, so we can check that it's working okay.
Okay, of course, sure. Thank you so much about the technical difficulties here. Okay, so as I was mentioning earlier.
That's much better.
Okay, yeah, I was able to put in the Bluetooth headset instead of using this mic right here. Okay, I just got to get that fixed up a little bit. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, the reason why I am a flat Earth, okay, was because from a science point of view, as we was talking about earlier, liquids actually do have to take the shape of this container and freely flows. That would be the first thing right there that would actually make me believe that the Earth would actually be flat. I know how liquids actually flow. Okay, we're stating that the Earth actually spins at 1,000 miles per hour, but yet you don't see the liquids actually spinning off of the ball, off of the globe Earth. You're not seeing liquids actually spinning in one direction. You would actually see from different sides of the sea. So, sample on the East Coast, you see water onto the beach that way. But if you're on the West Coast, you'll see the water going to the beach that way as well, different directions. You see what I mean? Also, the liquids being the shape of its container here. In fact, just give me 1 second here. I can actually show it in demonstration. Give me 1 second.
We'll see how this goes. Hopefully the connection should stay stable.
Okay, so the connection is still staying on. That's good.
It's
All
cutting out a
right.
little bit. But we'll carry on and see how it goes on.
Okay. So people think that we live on a ball. I know this is we have. So if I was to take a liquid here and pour it onto a ball, well, what's going to happen is that it's going to fall off. Now, I've never actually seen anybody do any type of scientific experiment where they've actually cut holes into a ball in order to have it spin and actually keep the water strong. So that would be part of the reason why I would actually be a flat earther. And as I was mentioning earlier, too, the Bible would actually back this up. See, I read the book of Genesis here. This was actually in Genesis, the first chapter. It clearly does say that how the earth was made. It actually says that the earth was made before the sun, moon, and stars in the book of Genesis. Stated that God, before he actually made the earth, he separated water from water in order for him to make the earth. Now that I can actually believe from doing electrical work, because in order to do electric work, right, you actually have to build a foundation in order for you to put lights into the house. So that would make more sense for me that the earth would actually be made for the sun, moon, and stars. People keep thinking that the sun is bigger than the earth, and it really isn't. I can actually look at it now.
Right.
I know how
you're still a little choppy. Just to make sure that we can get this. Are you watching the live stream as well? Have you got that playing?
Yes, I'm actually
right.
watching
Try closing that down, and turn off your video feed just because it's still really choppy, and
okay.
It's hard to hear. I mean, I'm catching most of it, but
okay. So that link should actually be canceled right there. Are you able to hear me better now?
It's still a little choppy. Just try losing your video feed.
Using video feed. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's drop this off here. Okay. How about now?
Right. Let's carry on. Right. So, basically, right. So one of the things you're saying is about water sticking to a ball, right? And how that doesn't happen. Now, the simple answer to how the oceans stick to the earth is gravity. So do you believe that there is a accelerating force? You know, you can call it what you want, but do you believe that there is something pulling everything down, or do you subscribe to a different reason as to why things accelerate towards the ground?
The reason why it would actually accelerate ground would actually be the answer. Density. That's what I've actually researched. I researched density, and I also researched buoyancy. So buoyancy is when it goes back up from the water, from underwater up to float on top of water.
Okay.
There, whereas density would actually bring it from the air coming down to the earth.
Right.
Now, gravity is a theory. And I've actually researched gravity. It's a theory. It really hasn't been proven to me.
Okay, right. So,
and if gravity exists,
sorry, carry on.
From flying planes. But go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's fine. So, the big issue that I have with the whole density buoyancy argument is that, right. So you're saying that this YouTube button that I've got, if I was to let it go, it would go towards the ground because the air here is less dense than the button. Yeah, is that what you're saying?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
That's what I am saying.
So my issue with that is that the air all around it is less dense. So why is it deciding to go down and not in another direction?
Why? Because it's heavy, as I stated. Now, density does go by weight. It's percent mass, volume, whatever it was, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the actual formula for that. That was mass by volume. There.
Yeah. Okay, but my question is what is giving it the direction? Why is it deciding to go down rather than up or sideways? Because the air is less dense, you are right, but it's less dense all around it. And on a very small scale, because our atmosphere has a pressure gradient, the air is actually less dense above it than it is below it. So if things were to move according to buoyancy and density, then surely it should go towards the less dense medium, which would be up.
No, I wouldn't exactly say that'd be true, though. Now, here's the thing, though. We also got to research on how to actually fly craft as well, too, So we go with the theory of gravity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would gravity still exist if you're actually debunking it from in the air? Everybody's stating that, we got satellites and things like that out in space, which I don't believe in space. Well, I used to believe in space. I used to actually believe in the globe. I even had a globe here myself. Showed pictures of it on Facebook and on Twitter, YouTube, where it stated on the bottom that globes are not meant for educational purposes, but they're meant for decorative purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Did a live stream on 2010.
You are correct that most globes are for decorative purposes, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some globes that are actually accurate and used for teaching. In fact, there's a website that specializes in just that I've showed many flat earthers. Most globes that you buy, you go into Walmart or Asda or something, you can pick a globe off the shelf. Yeah, that probably is going to say only for decorative purposes, but that's because it literally is just for decorative purposes. But you can get globes that are, designed for education and are accurate representations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also looked at the flat Earth map too. That azimuth for equidistance map, the whole flat Earth map that you actually see on the United Nations flag.
Yeah.
And that would actually map the world. So the reason why I'm agreeing with that, because I'm looking at the time calculator there. It's called Alex Klee's map. It clearly does say it has longitude and time calculator difficulty as it is. And that's what it says on there. And it actually shows how time zones actually work and how systems work too.
On which map was that? The Gleason's map?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, let me just get up a picture of the Gleason's map, because my main issue with the Gleason's map and most kind of projection maps from that direction, let me just get this in here so you can see what I mean. Okay. So if we go over to this screen, Australia at the top there, right? Yeah. Australia isn't Australia, just Australia. I mean, that's not the shape of Australia. That's not the dimensions of Australia. As you can see, when you look at this map, the longitude and latitude lines get further and further apart the further you go from the center, meaning that the further from the center, it will be more distorted. And that is reflected in the fact that Australia looks about 3 times as long as it actually is. So my question to you is, if you say that this is the correct map of the world, does that mean that cartographers have been lying to us for centuries?
I'd actually say that they would have been lying to you guys. And as I said earlier, I'm also government documents stating that the Earth was non-rotating as well. As I mentioned earlier in the video, look at NASA. You've heard of NASA.gov, right?
Yes,
the ones that show you.
T-shirt. Yes, I've heard. We've all heard of NASA, and what I assume you're going to talk about now. You obviously just ignored my point about Australia there, but never mind. So the thing about these government documents is you're going to tell me that they say they assume a stationary and flat Earth, right? And you're right, they do say that. But do you know why? Do you know why they say that?
Because it's the actual truth. They've actually done the experiments for themselves. I've actually read their documents here.
Okay.
As I was stating, I know a few of them.
Let me just explain to you what they're saying in those documents. They need to assume a flat and non-rotating reference frame because for all intents and purposes, because of the size of an aircraft compared to the size of the planet, they are flying over a flat, non-rotating body. But that's literally just to do with making it simple for them to do these calculations. You don't have to take into account the fact the Earth spins because the airplane is using the atmosphere that is spinning with the Earth to fly in. So the reference frame that airplane is in is still a non-rotating. If you are outside of the atmosphere, then you would have to have different calculations. But if you're inside the atmosphere, which is rotating with the planet, then your reference frame is still, because you are, you're taking into account the point that you are always above as it's moving. So that's what these documents mean when they say things like we assumed a flat and stationary reference frame, because that to make the calculations easier. However, if you look at the newer NASA documents, they actually don't even say that at all. These are all documents from quite a while ago, and they use that verbiage because it made sense. And like I said, the models that they have, it makes sense to test them and create them based on a flat, non-rotating reference frame, because for all intents and purposes, it is. The Earth isn't spinning at humongous speeds. It's spinning at 0.0000694 RPM, which isn't very fast at all. And even that motion, the airplane is in reference to that as it's going. So, yeah, they do say they assume it, but if you ask NASA what shape the planet is, they're going to say it's a sphere.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that most of them will say that it's a sphere. It's a way for them to get off of people. But what you stating that about why they not flat, wrong, rotate there. Here's where I have to actually on here. I actually read the bit of the SD bird. That was one of their documents where they actually did say that Earth flat and non-rotating, and that was actually one of their current documents. They said that this doc is done in the year 2001. I can tell you the link to that document. Just one moment here.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you again. You've gone a bit choppy. It did get better when you refreshed your browser. So you just want to quickly refresh it again.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Sorry about that.
Let me refresh it.
I do apologize for
you fine,
guys.
No, I actually appreciate that you actually did a live stream with me, unlike the other people on the Twitter there.
No worries. I'm always open for a live stream. Just a shame that we've got some issues. And to the
Okay.
Oh, whoa! Don't know what's going on there. He's turned into a Dalek. Right. Try refreshing again. That's gone crazy, man.
That's because this Bluetooth was on. Just give me again.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Okay, it should be better now. Okay, so here was one of the documents that I actually did read. It was called the Stability and Control Estimation Flight Test Results for the SR-71 Blackbird aircraft with externally mounted experiments. Now, this was one of their more current documents clearly state that Earth was flat and non-rotating, and the SR-71 was it was the fastest aircraft known to man. So that was one of the reasons why I know that it was flat and non-rotated. And back in the day when they did use the SR-71 Blackbird, the actual U.S. Air Force mentioned this, and they actually have a documentary on YouTube as well stating this. The pilot that was actually in the plane clearly stated that when he was up over 60,000 feet in the sky, he seen 2,000 miles of straight horizon. That's exactly what he said. And they've also mentioned this, and I'm trying to be fair and balanced here because they did mention this. They stated that flew over the Arctic, okay? They was able to actually see night and day. He was flying through the Arctic and back, seeing the night and day at the same time. He said he thought that was strange because the plane's moving faster than the Earth's rotation. They're outrunning the sun. See, in that sentence, it's a double negative because you're stating that you are moving faster than the Earth's rotation, but at the same time, you're saying that the sun is moving as well. Now, from what I know that the sun actually does move, not the Earth, just because I've also read that in the Bible as well. It was in the book of Joshua, the 10th chapter, verse 12, where it stated that God stopped the sun from moving in order for his people not to be taken over.
Okay.
Also,
can I just say, in regards to the Bible and things that it says in it, I honestly don't put any stock in it at all because the Bible was never intended to be a scientific book. Regardless of your religious beliefs, I honestly don't think the Bible is something that should tell us what shape the planet is. That was never its intention. It's supposed to tell us the words of God. I am not religious in any way, shape, or form. I have read the Bible. And one thing I've noticed about the Bible is that nowhere are the words, the earth is flat. So unless you can directly show me a verse that says that the earth is flat, not something like God used it as his footstool, or it rests upon pillars, or you could see the four corners. I would like to see the actual words, the earth is flat. Otherwise, I think we can disregard what the Bible says.
Sure about that. Now, okay, how about I say it like this? Now, here's something I could show you. Just give me one second. Here. In here. I'm just going to pull this up. It was actually in the book of Job.
I'll get your screen back up so people can see you. One sec.
Okay. Just give me one second here.
I mean, like I said, if you're able to show me a specific verse where it says that the earth is flat, I'd be very happy with that.
Okay, so what it actually does say is this. It always says ends of the earth there. Now that right there, when it's telling me the end of the earth, man, I'm already thinking it's not a ball, straight up.
All
That's
right, so
what I'm going to say.
If I can reference that particular thing, the ends of the earth. Now, if you're standing on a massive hill and you don't know that there's anything beyond the horizon, would that not, to you, just be the end of the earth?
No.
I mean, if he's saying he can see to the ends of the earth, then that means that there's a point where he couldn't see anymore. Now, that can either mean that he saw the end of the earth, meaning that it's flat, or it could mean that he saw a horizon and that was the ends of the earth as far as he could see. Again, that isn't the phrase, the earth is flat. The ends of the earth is something that has been used from, to describe basically as far as you can see for a long time. It's not the phrase, the earth is flat, which is what I'm looking for out of the Bible, to be able to take it as a source.
Okay, so how about, since you stated a mountain, right?
Yeah.
There was also something in the Bible too, where it stated that Satan actually was able to take Jesus to a very high mountain, and he was actually able to see every kingdom on the earth. Right? So here's my question. Okay, so say for example we have this globe here. Now, from a scientific point of view, let's say we have like a little object on top of it, like this little piece of nail that I have here. This is also a toolbox desk here as well. Can y'all see that there? There we go. Okay, so this tool right here, let's just say it's on the top of the mountain, okay?
Yeah.
Now, my question is, now, if it's clearly stating in the book of Matthew, the 4th chapter, 8, that Satan was able to take Jesus on the top of a mountain, and he's able to see every kingdom on the earth, right?
Yeah.
How would he actually be able to see every kingdom on the earth, even though he's on, it was a glove from a scientific point of view, though?
Okay.
How would that actually be possible? I know he had magic powers, or you would say magic powers, supernatural powers, whatever you like to say, but still from a scientific point of view, it doesn't make sense for him to be on the
So
again,
let's look at the age that the books were written in. You know, 2,000 odd years ago. You know, we know that they were written back then, and back then they didn't know where all the kingdoms of the earth were. They knew of the kingdoms that they knew about, but they didn't know that there was other continents and other lands. So for them, yeah, they probably could see all the kingdoms of the earth, but that was just all the kingdoms that they knew. Again, it isn't the words, the earth is flat.
Here's the, they actually did know where everything was on earth, though, too. And as I mentioned here before, in the book Genesis, where it said he separated water from the water, and then later on, as you hear about the book of Noah, or the story of Noah, excuse me, it stated that there was a great flood. That actually makes a lot more sense to me as well. Now, if it was in the shape of this container, water coming down from the sky, then yeah, I actually see that happening.
But again, it's not really the words "the Earth is flat." But just quickly, I'd like to introduce Steve McRae to the channel.
Hey,
how you doing, Mr.
I don't think
McRae?
I've been here before, man.
No, I think this is your first time on the show. How you doing?
I think so, man. I didn't even bring you anything. Sorry, except for scotch. You want some scotch? But
that's right. I've been drinking.
I brought you like almost 100 subs or something like that.
Yeah, so, honestly, what the actual hell? Earlier on today, I was at 14,930 subs, and I just tweeted out, "Hey, I'm nearly at 15,000." And Steve McRae's like, "You know what? I'll do you a sub drive," and I'm now at 15,015. So you
and watch when he hits 20,000, he'll be like, "New computer or new Earth, who dis?"
Yeah. So thanks for joining, Steve.
Thanks, man. I want to. Go ahead.
No, go on. What were you going to say?
Oh, I had some things to maybe contribute here after you were just a little bit of discussion. I think I think somebody's calling him though.
Yeah.
I think Andre's.
Yeah. Are you there, Draybone?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Steve McRae, who is a great mind in this community, he has some things to add to the conversation, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I have some things.
So
too,
what?
If you want
And
to
hey, team, I actually didn't
Whoa,
realize
is
that
that
you were
Team
here.
Skeptic? I did. I heard that. I heard
I've been
that
sitting
voice.
here for a minute.
I don't see you, team.
Hey, can I actually have somebody join in with me on my side?
Yeah,
I actually do
absolutely.
have a person join.
I can give you a
Team
link.
Skeptic here, though, man.
Bear with me. Team, yeah, I couldn't see your face. I was confused.
I have a. Well, I have a quick question.
Because
you brought up.
You sent them a link. All right.
I'm fangirling. I'm fangirling. Oh wait, it's Tim Skeptic.
No, I'm the one fangirling over here. Steve,
Andre, I'm just sending you a
godfather.
link on Twitter for the other person to give them. Okay.
So you brought up the passage in Joshua, which talks about the. I don't know if he can hear me. Hold on. I'll wait for him to hear me.
I think he's just getting the other person. Yeah, team. Do you know you're just displaying the call to everybody?
I'm displaying what? Oh, I didn't know that. I'll fix that in a moment.
Yeah,
All right, man. Hey, can you
Draybone.
hear me? The other guy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
What is it, Drabo? What's his name? Drabo?
Draybone, yeah.
Yeah,
Draybone,
yeah,
okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's my name.
Draybone,
All right, Dre. All right.
Draybone, you brought up
Go
the
ahead, team.
you
You take
brought
it
up
first. Go ahead.
you brought up the verse in Joshua where they talk about the sun being stopped in the sky. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Why did no other civilization around that time or around that time period report the same thing when all the other civilizations did report what would appear to be an annular eclipse, which also matches up to our cosmology, working backwards?
Okay, so like I stated here,
Only the Bible says that
what
God
you
stopped the
actually do-
sun.
Okay, yeah. So when you actually start doing some research in other books, encyclopedias, things like that, that's when you'll actually start finding out more answers there for you. You'll actually probably see some actual work there where it do say that the sun has stopped moving as well. Not just only in the Bible, but they actually do have other religious books here as well. Now, Quran also backs up flat Earth as well. So does Buddhism. Mayans actually believed it was flat. They, old
Hey,
Egyptology.
Draybone, could you kill your camera again? Sorry, just to get the feed a bit better.
Okay, sure.
I think you're missing
And I'm
my
having
point,
my
though.
people.
I think you're missing. I think you're missing the point here. The point of my question is that the Egyptians, who were in the same general region of the world as the Hebrews were, okay, they worshiped the sun. So the sun was a key part of their religion, but they did not report that on a certain day the sun stood still in the sky for an unusual amount of time. If God stopped it for, whoever God stopped it for, then he stopped it for everybody on the earth. Is that correct?
Okay.
This would be something I would assume would be reported just as, why are the Egyptians not reporting on the same annular eclipse as the Bible states? Or at least they're not reporting on it the same way. They don't say that the sun stopped in the sky. Okay? The only people saying that is the Bible. Across the world.
Right.
Across the world. Why is that?
As I stated there, you would just have to keep looking into your research. Don't do your research. Look into history more. Now they do say.
Well, let me interject real quick on this then. When somebody says you should do your research, when somebody says you should do your research, the person making the claim, the person saying this, they at least should be able to give somebody where they can go research this information. Just saying go do your research isn't really telling anybody of any kind of informative information. So if Team Skeptic's asking you where would he go to find this kind of information, because I've certainly looked, I haven't seen anything. There's very few instances of stories of the sun stopping. There was also clearly fatwa, which was much later on, but even that story has huge issues to it. And of course, if you think that the sun stopped at one time, then are the Catholics right that the lady of a fatwa appeared and that the sun stopped as well? I mean, why would one story be correct and one story is not? I don't think you're Catholic, I would assume, right? You seem like a bit of a liberal.
Catholic at all. No. Now, if somebody that wants to join here on this live stream, now, do they actually need the computer? Now, I know I was actually having some problems getting on here using my phone. Now, do you actually need a computer to actually do this type of live stream?
You just need something that can join on a web browser and with a camera.
Phones are hit or miss.
iPhones don't usually work. Androids work better.
Yeah, Android works better for his Phoenix.
Okay, yeah, if you got a Droid, then you can actually join here. Okay, so that's all I gotta say here. Maybe I gotta send the links in again because they actually do want to do the debate with me on here as well.
I see. Yeah, I see. They tried to join. But yeah,
is this somebody we know?
Well, it would be somebody that I would know from Facebook, actually.
Yeah, Draven, sorry, would you mind just killing your camera feed? Because I think that takes away some of the bandwidth, and we can't hear you properly. So
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're overdriving your CPU. So if you have any tabs open you don't need, that makes a huge difference. If you have anything running in the background you don't need, clear that out, because it sounds like you're at 100% CPU usage in your clipping, is what it sounds like to me.
Again. All right. All right.
Or your bandwidth is like 10 megabits per second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they do say they see you in here. Okay. All right. So, yeah, can y'all hear me perfectly now?
Yeah, you do sound
It's
a lot
better.
better now.
It's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot better actually. Yeah.
Okay. It probably is you. Like,
Well, now it
this
went to
is
crap.
older
Then it went bad
computer,
straight
it was
away.
upgraded.
I'm sorry.
Are you sure you have? Are you sure he has nothing running in the background? Is he downloading anything?
I don't think so.
No, I don't have anything
Yeah.
downloading. It might just be my connection, or it could be the computer as
By the way,
well.
I used to sell
Because this
real
is the
computers.
older
I could do it
computer.
with my keyboard. Do you have?
Yeah,
okay,
I need.
do you have any CPU monitor? What's your RAM? How much RAM do you have right now? If you say 4, we're going to die.
About 6.
Okay, well,
This is an old computer, though.
Okay. Yes.
Somebody else? Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, Ray. Welcome to the
All right,
show.
cool.
Hey, what's going on, Ray?
Mic check.
What's up? Thank you.
Hi,
Good
Ray.
afternoon.
Yeah, you do
Hi.
sound a bit better connection than your friend. I appreciate you joining the show. So far, the evidence for flat Earth has been water on a ball and the Bible. Do you have anything to add?
Well, not as of right now, but on top of that note, when you said something about, okay, when Dre was talking about when the devil took Jesus up to the mountain, and you said that how would Jesus be aware of the other continents?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, okay, in the book of Genesis, it tells you after the flood of Noah had like 3 sons or something like that. I forgot the whole genealogy in that, but there was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham was in the continent of what we call modern day Africa. That's going specifically to the Bible. Shem was in the area what we now call the Middle East, which is actually northeast of Africa. Japheth resided in the area of what we call modern day Europe and Asia. So Jesus had to be aware of that if he knew where those bloodlines come from. Within the Bible, your genealogy is very important. So no, he was clearly aware of each continent. So he had to have known where each one of them were if he knew. I apologize about that. I got my little nephew in the background. But yes, he would have had to.
Oh, okay. My question is, does that mean that he had knowledge of the entire world? Did he know of all the continents, of all the peoples of the world at that point? Or just what had been discovered in that region? I mean, as far as they were concerned, that was all of the kingdoms of the earth, because they didn't know there was anything else. That's my point.
That was their world.
Yeah.
Their limited knowledge was their world. That was what they had limited understanding of certain other places.
And this is why I say that I don't think the Bible is something that should be used in these discussions, because it was never intended to be a book about science, about the shape of the earth. It was literally just supposed to be God's words, right? And that's all it should be used for. I don't believe that there's a God, but if you believe there's a God and you want to read the Bible and base your life around that, that's great. But I really don't think that anyone can ever say that the Bible is a flat earth book, because it's simply not. It's just the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, I would a little pushback on that. I think that there might have been some writers for the Bible that probably did have a flat earth perspective, because if you look at the way they looked at Gehenna and Sheol and the ferment, I mean, there were some people back there that clearly thought the earth was flat. But of course, I don't see any narrative where Jesus ever taught any such a thing, or even from any kind of biblical perspective that God taught any such a thing.
Because it was
I
over
agree.
I got something here for y'all. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Now you stated how he would not actually have known. How would he have not known? He would be God's son, right? He would be fearful to actually know exactly what every kingdom would be on earth, correct? That's how I'm thinking of it as. And also, as I was stating in the book of Genesis, from my perspective, it clearly did say that mentioned the firmament, excuse me, it mentioned the firmament, okay? Also see that word in the CIA.gov document as well. They mentioned flat Earth with it quotated. It was actually quotated in there with quotation marks. And then when you read the actual document, it clearly says firmament. In fact, let me see if I can actually pull this up, because I actually show y'all this on my camera as well.
Okay, while you look that up, I want to ask you a question. What do you say to the theologians, or theologians, I'm sorry, to the theologians who go to school for several years to get a much more in-depth understanding of what's going on at the time, what's being written about in the book, and whatnot? What do you say to them who disagree with you that it's not a flat Earth book?
Oh, I would already say they wouldn't actually be talking about, or they probably would know, but at the same time, you got to understand this. Formal education is just only going by what somebody else has taught you. I'm a guy who likes to do self-education, meaning that I also like to read things for myself as well.
Hold on. So are you saying that everything you're saying today is your own personal interpretation of the Bible? That you're not taking any professional interpretation, you're not taking anybody else's viewpoints and applying them to your worldview? Are you saying that?
And for physics too, not just the Bible.
I can't say can't say it's always like that. Here's what I am going to say.
Well, then you're being at that point you're being a little hypocritical. You're saying that the people who have.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, team.
Okay. Go ahead. I was saying that you're being a little bit hypocritical there, because you're saying that you can't listen to the people who are professional theologians. Okay, people who have dedicated their life to theology. You're telling them that they're incorrect because it doesn't match up with your worldview, and the excuse you're using is that they are indoctrinated, basically. I'm paraphrasing to what you're saying. They're indoctrinated by a system that teaches a certain narrative that they're pushing out forward, or they're pushing forward. So you're essentially saying that you know the truth, where you know, and where they are, whether they know it or not, they're just telling lies. And then you're saying that you're not getting your truth from your own. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, let me give you an example, because you guys he touched on a paper. By the way, I have this actual report. Okay, you touched on a paper earlier. It was called, I have the actual name right here because I have the actual document. Derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. You're familiar with, right?
Right.
Okay, and I assume that you read the paper.
Yes.
Okay, so it says this report documents the derivation and definition of the linear aircraft model for rigid aircraft out of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. That's correct, right? So let's discuss this real quick. Okay, so you understand. I assume that you do understand transformations, calculus, and vector analysis, right? Because this paper is heavy into vectors and transformations. Okay, so how many degrees of freedom we're giving in this paper? Because this is critical about why they determined a non-rotating body. There's a very specific amount of degrees of freedom that was given in this for locality here. How many was it, and why did they use that specific degree of freedom?
Well, here I'm going to say they mentioned that it was flat, non-rotating, right? So they were actually making the aircraft, and they were actually trying to find the distance out to travel to one to another, with all the math that is actually involved in there. When you
what kind of math was
that? It was
what kind of? I read the paper. I have it here. I know the math. Well, I know of the math. I know a little bit about it. What kind of math were they using? Yeah, I'm sure.
Are you sure they? Well, let's see then.
If you read this paper, you know how many degrees of freedom there was and why they use that in their transformations. I mean, do and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but this is what teams going point to be made. People have to go to school to learn things like transformations, Galilean transformations versus non-Galilean, where you're using inertial frames of references versus non-inertial frame of references. There's a reason why these people wrote this paper to explain these types of transforms using the mathematics they did. If you don't know what the mathematics is that they're using, how do you think, and I'm not trying to sharpshoot you, but this is critical. How do you think you have any expertise to tell people about this paper when you don't even know what math they used, or you don't know the degrees of freedom they used, or why they decided to use a non-rotating body in their example here? By the way, planetariums do something very similar. Planetariums actually use a geocentric model. They use a geostationary model because it's very similar to what you would find for heliocentric, but it's much easier for the projection system. It doesn't mean that we live in a geocentric system. It just means for the projector, by using transforms, exactly like this paper does, you can set yourself to be the center of where you want to be. And that's all this paper is doing. It's studying the locality using 6 degrees of freedom, which is like this, and then using mathematical transforms to do the Galilean transformations. So it's not. It doesn't say that the Earth is not rotating. Oh, hang on, let me finish. It doesn't say that the Earth is not rotating. It's just saying that they're using a model as if they were assuming a non-rotating Earth, because there's no reason to assume a rotating Earth because the mathematics doesn't require that. Sometimes, for example, if I want to describe a Newtonian system, just using this, if I want to describe a Newtonian system just by using Newtonian physics, I could do that. If I wanted to use relativity, I could do that as well. But relativity requires a lot more mathematics. That's not necessary to describe a non-relativistic system. So I would say I would use this type of math for this type of problem. There's no reason to use a rotating body system math in a 3-body system in this particular paper. That's why they use a flat, non-rotating system. But if you have to understand what a transform is. Does it make sense?
So let me ask this question.
Okay, then I'd like to ask you a question.
So why would they actually use or assume a flat, non-rotating Earth if it would actually be round? I don't understand why.
I literally just explained that to you because they don't need to use those calculations.
Let me answer this question. All
right, everyone, let team answer this question. Then.
Let me answer this question, okay? If you're going to have a ball in your hand while you're driving in the car and you toss it up and you're just going to catch it in your hand and toss it up at 2 inches and then catch it again in your hand. When you do that, is it easier for you to accomplish that goal by assuming that you, the ball in your hand, and the car around you are all not moving? Or is it easier for you to take into the calculation whether it's 100 miles per hour or 60 miles per hour or 500 miles per hour or 1,000 miles per hour? What's easier for you to do? And will it give you the same results whether you do it either way?
It sets the plane as the frame of reference. That's why you have 6 degrees of freedom. That's exactly what team's saying. Yes. Spot on. But this is why you have to go and you learn about these things. You can't be home. I mean, people are don't get me wrong. Some people are didactic where they can go and learn things. And mathematics, maybe some people can. This kind of stuff's not easy stuff. He went to nuke school. He does physics. I went to nuke school. We had to learn math. It's not easy. But you can't just be out there saying, look, these experts have studied this stuff. They don't know what they're talking about. I just learned the stuff on my own, and I think that I know more than them. That's not how any of this will work, because I guarantee it, and again, no disrespect, they're not going to hire you to go design aircrafts. This is not going to happen.
Oh, could I add something to that?
Wait, let me ask you a fair question. Would you travel in a plane? Would you travel in a plane designed by a flat earther like yourself, based on your understanding of these mathematics and physics? You would?
Yeah.
Then you would travel. All right. I have a question.
You win the Darwin Award.
Yeah. I have a question for both Draybone and Ray. Can you show me any experiments that have been done that show that the Earth isn't rotating? Because I can present to you right now an experiment that showed that the Earth is rotating. How about I show you my, the evidence that the Earth is rotating first, and then you can show me some evidence that it isn't. All right? How's that sound?
Okay.
Okay, so bear with me 1 second. I'm pretty sure most people know what's coming at this point.
Yeah, I already know what's. Yeah. Let me guess. It swings back and forth.
Well, we just have to say thank you to a particular person for this. His name was Bob. So yeah, if you just watch this quick video, guys, and then I'd like to hear what you think about it.
If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to in today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
Thank you very much,
Shocking.
Bob Nadell.
Shocking! Proved around Earth! Yay! Disprove flat Earth! Yay!
So,
Flat Earthers
yeah.
disproving flat Earth.
So yeah, that was an experiment done by flat earthers where they managed to get hold of a ring laser gyroscope and prove the rotation of the Earth.
Try to cover it up. By the way.
and then when
I
they
was wrong. Sorry.
when they had this happen, they wanted to try and disprove that it was a rotation of the Earth. So the next thing they did was they encased it in what they called a zero Gauss chamber in an attempt to block out any electromagnetic heavenly energies. It hurts when I fucking say that. And they still picked up a 15 degree per hour rotation.
What are those measured in? Wait, what are those measured in?
Angel watts. I don't know. So yeah, that is pretty conclusive evidence that the Earth does spin. Now, do you have anything to counter that?
Here's the thing from what I've actually watched the video though. Okay, so I do know about gyroscopes, and yes, they do detect motion. We could have just used our cell phone and actually did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have gyros in them as well. The
There's an
thing that they
accelerometer
didn't
in
do
that
was they didn't do actual live stream like we're doing right now. On them, their face, she's showing it live, showing that actual gyroscope was actually moved. See, I mean by critical thing, doing actual experiments. Anybody actually done that? And I've actually got pictures where it does not actually move myself. Here, just give me a second. I'm gonna show you what
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Is your the gyroscope that you're showing with detecting no movement, is it a mechanical gyro or is it a non-mechanical gyro?
It'll be mechanical.
Okay. Have you taken into account? Okay, so first off, there's your problem. If you use the fiber optic and ring laser gyros are not mechanical gyros; they're optical gyroscopes. So that means that they have no friction involved as they're moving through the equipment, for instance. Okay. So when you're using a mechanical gyro, you're dealing with very, very, very tiny forces, and these tiny forces are also being influenced by forces called friction. So as the gyroscope swings or spins or anything that it does, it has a it has a rotation, an axis of rotation. And how that axis of rotation is connected will cause there will be friction at that point. And that friction, you have to add that friction in or take that into account, because if the friction is even a tad bit, it's going to be more than the Coriolis forces that you would get from rotation.
Yeah, it's coefficient of friction for those types of mechanical devices, man.
And so the way that a fiber optic gyroscope or a ring laser gyroscope works is it literally fires a beam of light round a coil. And then it splits the beam, so one it goes anti-clockwise and one goes clockwise. And when the light recombines, it will show that if there's any rotation, because if it's not moving, then the two paths that the light is taking are the same. But if the gyroscope itself is rotating, that means that one of the paths will be shorter for the light to travel, meaning that when the light recombines, there's an interference pattern. So there is no outside influences. It's literally just using the Sagnac effect to measure the speed of light and the distance that the light has had to travel, and uses that to calculate pitch, yaw, and roll.
And it's funny because the Sagnac effect used to be something that flat earthers used to try to use to try to prove flat Earth, and it actually worked against them. And the thing about all gyroscopes really is that they maintain their fixed position relative to the distant stars of the universe, and that's how we can use them to detect such minute motions of the Earth.
I mean, if you had a fiber optic gyroscope and you left it for a year, you would even be able to detect the motion around the sun. But obviously, that's what basically 1 degree a day, right? So yeah, so ring laser gyroscopes and fiber optic gyroscopes, as far as I'm concerned, conclusively show that there is rotation to the planet.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just discount that 15-degree drift, which is going to be what you would expect over a day for a 360 rotation. So when Bob proved this accidentally, because that wasn't hit the goal, you know, they tried to cover this stuff up. I mean, much like when they did the similar to the Benford lever experiment, where they're doing a laser, and they noted that until the person was able to move the laser up, they weren't able to see it, right? Which is something we would expect on a flat Earth, that it'd be a linear observation. But of course, on a curved Earth, you're going to be a slightly lower, a few miles out. So you have to put it position higher in order to be able to see it on the experiment, which they found out didn't match what they predicted for a flat Earth model, right? So none of these predictions that for flat Earth have been coming true. It's quite the opposite. Every time they've actually tried to demonstrate flat Earth, it's had the opposite. It's disproved flat Earth, and it's actually demonstrated evidence for at least a non-flat Earth, round Earth of some kind. I mean, somebody could argue it's a hemisphere or something, and just whatever. So we're a flat Earth, but we're on the spherical side, I guess you can argue. But I do have a question that I know this was a while ago, but I want to get to this real quick because I don't know how long your stream is.
I have a question.
Because it's something. But well, let me ask my question first, because this is something that I learned again through actual schooling. This was called Pascal's pressure law. Are you familiar with it? Okay, Pascal's pressure law states that the pressure exerted on an enclosed fluid at rest should be transmitted equally and undiminished throughout the fluid and to the walls of its container. Now, this is something that flat earthers use a lot to say that in order to have a pressure of a fluid, you need some kind of container. No physicist in the world has ever told you that, or will ever tell you that, because that's that you need some kind of container for it. If you have a container and you have an isolated system such that you have compression, then you'll be able to experience equal pressure at all points throughout the fluid and the wall's container. But this container is not needed to have pressure. No physicist will ever tell you you need a container to have pressure. So where flat earthers get that from is beyond me. Because think about this. Do you have pressure at the bottom of the ocean? If so, what is the container there?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Ray.
The
You wanted to
would
say
actually
something?
still be the
Can you answer that?
container would just be over the ground, right?
No,
Right?
if
With
I'm
all
in the
sand
ocean
and
and I go
everything.
miles deep in the ocean, I have pressure because of the column of fluid above me. Just like an atmospheric pressure, you have 14.7 psi above me. Every square inch has that amount of pressure on it. So I don't need a container for the atmosphere, just like I don't need a container to have the ocean.
Actually, you still
what's
do
the
need
container for the ocean? So what's the
because
container
it
for the
still would
ocean?
be like in a crater. That's pretty
No,
much like a crater, like how
what is
the
the
Great Lakes are.
No, but that,
Right?
I'm at
okay,
the
you're
bottom of
missing
the
the
ocean.
point.
Great Lakes.
What Steve's saying is that if I told, okay, well then what we're saying then is that you don't need a container for atmosphere because of the same exact reasons that you're just now saying. You're describing with a crater, you're describing a bowl, not a container. A container is contained. Everything is contained, and there is no container for the Great Lakes.
In a bowl. It would still.
No, he's using container different ways. You're thinking of a container that. Wait, hang on. You're thinking of a container that holds water. When we're talking about containment, we're talking about a pressurized system like a piston and a cylinder.
Yes.
That would be a pressurized system, right? The pressure excluded in a system like a gas system inside a piston. When you compress it, what happens? The pressure goes up everywhere on the walls of the container because it all have the same amount of pressure. It's equally and undiminished throughout the fluid.
Right.
Or to the walls of the container.
This is what hydraulics are, guys. This is exactly what he's explaining are hydraulics. It's non-compressibility of liquids.
Right?
Yes.
So if you have a gas in it, it's going to be...
Right, so let the flat earthers respond to that. Ray, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, it does say that liquids do have to take a shape.
I kind of forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, that's all right. You're dealing with a child, I understand.
But I actually got something to say, though.
Yeah, go ahead, Draybone.
Also, did wanted to say this, too. I actually did have some pictures here that I wanted to show you. Using GPS, too, because GPS is ground-based technology. I've also read that as
Okay,
And
right.
I've actually used
I have to
GPS.
ask you one quick question about GPS being ground-based technology. When I was in the middle of the ocean on HMS Westminster, where was I getting my GPS from?
You know those boats that have those antennas on?
Yeah.
Typically what they have is like boats with like these antennas on it that kind of float out in the ocean.
Yeah,
That's where you get it from.
Oh,
Cell
man.
tower
Hey, you're
coverage.
talking to three. Hold on before you go any further. I want to let you know you're talking to three Navy vets right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
When you start talking about
two-
things
two
that
of
are on
which are Navy
ships,
nukes.
you should better know what you're
And one
talking
of which-
about.
And if you're
And by the way,
saying
one of which
that,
had a ham radio license.
yeah, if you're saying that it's ground-based, so cell towers and stuff, well, cell towers have a range, and I can guarantee you that my cell phone would not have signal when I was in the middle of the ocean. However, the GPS functions of that phone were working absolutely fine.
Yeah. By the way, I had a radio communications license when I was 13, KB6HSZ. I can tell you from experience that microwaves do not travel through ionosphere. They don't bounce around. They're direct line of sight. So when talking about microwave energies, this narrative that they're all ground-based is completely hosed from the beginning. Plus, I used to install DirecTV, which is in the microwave range. These signals are not going to be as bouncing around like you do have with FM radio, and you don't have tropospheric propagation with them like you do with certain types of radio frequencies. These are direct line of sight. That's why they have to be amplified every certain ways. This is why certain ham bands have what's called repeaters, because you need to repeat the signal because the signal is lost because it's not direct line of sight every 80 to 100 miles on most frequencies. And that's why the towers are very high. That's why you see those dome things, they look a boob, very high on towers, because they want to get the highest position possible to shoot it further. Because if that signal's down on the ground, you're not going to go as far because the Earth is curved and it's direct line of sight. Any book on radio propagation is going to tell you this. I guarantee it.
So again, I have to ask the question. So
I got
again,
another.
Yeah, I'm sure about that. Keep asking him, I'm sure.
So again,
I'm sure
Dre
too.
Bones,
I was a
am-
radar tech in the Navy.
By the way, I booed.
Let me pop in here real quick.
All right, let Dre Bone answer. Let Dre Bone answer.
Yeah,
I made a
yeah.
mistake.
So what is it saying actually on the ArmyResearchLab.com, right? Where it stated that there was a propagation of electromagnetic wave or electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. It directly does say that there, and they actually have math on that too as well. I'll read that document too. I mean, you did say that you was in the Navy, and I do respect that, but it really does say on the research website where it has the propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. Why does it actually say it directly like that?
I'm going to let Team Skeptic answer this one because he is the radar tech. So Team, would you like to take that?
Okay, so yes, when you consider special relativity, okay, so when you're moving, all light travels away from you at the same speed relative, or to you, no matter how fast you're going, light will travel away from you at the speed of light, okay? So it doesn't matter, again, for us, our frame of reference when it's rotating versus non-rotating, it's easier for all of our calculations to just assume that we're not moving through space and we're not spinning and the local topography is completely flat. However, if you try to go beyond the local topography, you'll come into problems because the Earth is not flat. It's easier for us in our frame of reference to make that assumption, but if we can't just say that this is reality, we have to also understand that our frame of reference is based on our local area. So that's why we don't take into account the spinning of the Earth. It's all relative, and in special relativity is the reason why for radar waves we don't need to account for the rotation of the Earth.
Bingo.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense though. I should actually have to take into account the rotation of the Earth.
Well,
But
anyway, right, Draybone, right,
I
stop one sec,
wanted to
guys,
show
stop
you
one sec.
too.
Draybone, I've got a simple question for you then. You don't understand it, therefore that's your problem, right? Well, me, Steve, and Team all understand it because we've studied the physics.
We understand special relativity. We know relativity.
And
we know general
you
relativity.
saying that doesn't...
I'm listening to everything.
and-
Listen, though,
But
why
you
would you not
saying
be
that
able
doesn't
to
make sense to me
rotation of the
isn't
Earth?
really an argument.
I don't think we have enough room to actually argue a point because we keep getting cut off. Like I don't like every time when something gets said for at least 2-3 seconds, it's interrupted.
Well, there's a delay, and he's breaking up, which is
Yeah.
two
Sorry,
big things.
yeah.
He's breaking up bad, and there's a delay with me.
Yeah, Draybone, if you could kill your camera again for me, buddy, that always helps.
But to go with Craig's point,
then I actually have to show y'all something on the camera too.
all right, when you say that you've researched this stuff, and I'm kind of curious, when you say the word research, does that mean you've actually been to libraries and you actually studied special theory relativity? Would you know the distinction between special theory relativity and general?
Here you go.
Because it's critical to understand these things. You need to have a basis understanding of what general relativity is as compared to special. Do you know the difference? Because I don't think you research this if you don't know the differences between special and general theory relativity. They're quite distinctly different. I mean, I'm not, again, I really hate sharpshooting people, but when you say research, I mean, will you be honest? Have you ever read a book on special relativity? I'm asking questions, but I'm not getting any answers.
Yeah, Draybone, have you ever read any books on special relativity?
There you go.
I can't even see that.
Draybone,
can you hear us? I have no idea what it is. Draybone, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know the difference between general relativity and special relativity?
What's the difference?
Yeah, we can't see your phone. It doesn't show anything. It's too blurry.
Yeah, Draybone, honestly, dude, you're going to have to kill your camera because it's the only way we can talk to you.
Yeah, people wanted to answer this question. So I want to make sure that you're hearing us. Draybone, can you hear me? Yes? Put down your phone, please.
Yeah, I can actually hear you.
Yeah. So the question is, have you ever read any books on general and special relativity, and do you know the difference between them?
Okay, so no, with the actual difference between them for this topic.
Well, okay, so you don't.
Yeah.
Me?
Okay, so you don't know the difference. So if you don't know the difference, I mean this very sincerely. What if you want to research something? Why don't you research the actual science of physics first? And I know it's difficult. This stuff's not easy, man. Trust me. But if you don't even have a basic understanding, then obviously any point that you might have is going to moot, because people are not going to listen to what you have to say if you say things like, I've done research, but I don't know what special theory relativity is. Because when Team Skeptic answered that question, we knew what the hell he was talking about, because we have a basic understanding of physics and special relativity. I've actually talked to Dr. Lawrence Krauss, who's a very respected physicist, on certain things on cosmology, about his book, Something from Nothing. I've talked to a lot of well-known physicists. A friend of mine, Dr. Hugh Ross. They're not going to talk to me if I'm completely inept. I'm not an expert by any stretch of imagination. I know the basics, but I know the basics well enough to have a conversation with people that are experts. If you don't have a basic understanding, then don't you think that the research you should be doing, the time you need to spend, no offense to Craig, is not trying to get on the internet and talk about flat Earth. It's learning about the topic properly. And then if you, for some reason, you want to talk about flat Earth, great. But you cannot honestly want to be taken seriously by promoting something when you don't have the basic prerequisites to talk about the topic in any competent way. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, but here's
cool.
What I was going to show y'all on the phone, right? I was about to an actual experiment they had actually do on why I was a flat earther too. I was going to show y'all the GPS feature in the actual curvature calculator. So I am actually using Earth, the globe Earth, in order to actually flat Earth. Okay. So
I don't think you really are, because if you hang on one second, if you're using a curvature formula,
no, hold on.
Wait, Steve, let him finish. Let
me finish. Okay. So you go to curvaturecalculator.com, right? That's what I was actually trying to show y'all on the camera, but y'all said it was too blurry, right? You go to Earth curvature.com, okay? And this shows you how to accurately measure the Earth's circumference, the radius. It says here in the explanation, it says the Earth's radius is 6,371 kilometers, or 3,959 miles, based on numbers from which is circumference here. So you know, the 8 inches
Yeah, we know
mouse
the
square,
formula.
whatever the number that was. But no, that wasn't the actual number. But it's a different number on here. It's the accurate number on that actual calculator, right? So what it does is every mile that you go, it shows a curvature drop of the actual curve on there. Okay. So what I did was this: I used the GPS feature from where I live at to a big building in my city. So I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, correct? So I did the steel building. That's the tallest from where I actually live. Okay. Now it states on my actual calculator that the building would be 8.8 miles away from where I was located, right? And it says here that the curvature be 51 feet. It says 51 feet. It says 51.64 feet. Yeah, for 8.8 miles. Okay? So that question is this though: why is the building still standing straight like it never even over? If this said you should see.
Are you? Hey, hold on. Are you
drop.
saying that the building should be leaning away?
Yes, it
Logically,
actually
it
should
should
be
be
curved.
saying,
okay.
Goodness me.
Okay.
Logically, it should
Okay,
be.
I want to point something out to you. Okay, at 69 miles away, the building should be leaned away 1 degree. So at 8 miles away, it should be leaning away at 0.1225 degrees.
Now you take.
Do you honestly think that you can see that?
Yeah. So
I said 8.8.
Do you actually?
So
8.8 miles
Oh,
is still
okay,
about
well then I'm sorry. It'll be
0.12 degrees.
0.13. Yeah, 0.13 degrees. Are you? No, but listen to me. Are you literally saying that you can visually determine a difference in 0.15, 0.2 degrees at 8 miles away? Are you really you really have that much hubris of yourself and your abilities? Are you Superman?
look, no.
Do you realize? Okay, let me rephrase the question. Let me rephrase my question. Do you realize how ridiculous what you just said is?
No, actually, did you just hear what I actually said?
That explains a lot.
Right. So, Draybone, like, can I posit this to you? Can I posit this to you, Draybone? Right. Take 2 pencils and put them at the other end of the room that you're in, standing up, and now make one of those pencils 1 degree different to the other one. Go and stand at the other side of your room and tell me if you can see that 1 degree difference. Because the answer is no, you wouldn't be able to. And 8.8 miles, you're going to see less than 0.2 of a degree.
Yeah, it's nominal. I mean, there's no way your visual acuity is going to be able to have that kind of resolution. It's just not possible. But,
actually, you would actually be able to notice it more because the Earth would actually be bigger, right?
No.
See, here's the thing. When it comes to a ball,
you're talking about distance,
right?
You're talking about distance.
Right. Let him respond.
Yes. Okay, from distance, yes. Here's the thing from the science point of view. When you're on a ball, right? Because to the structure of a ball, let me actually turn my camera on real quick and then right back off. Okay. Okay. So we have an object right here, right?
Hold on. I'm just getting rid of your thing. Yeah, go on.
Okay. A spherical object right here. Are you going to actually tell me that you don't know any movement or any type of curve at all? It doesn't matter what the distance is going to be. You're actually going to see some type of curve or some type of movement. Here's the thing. There is no actual movement. You would actually be able to feel it. I'm just saying, like, you're on a spinning ball at 1,000 miles per hour.
Why would you feel it? But what law of physics says?
Because you're standing on it.
Well, hang on. What law of physics says that you have to feel that? What name? Can you tell me the laws of physics that?
I mean, that would be.
I know a little physics, not a help. Not that I don't know. I took kinematics. Hang on, I took kinematics. I don't remember any law of physics that says I have to feel motion if there's no change in vector. If there's no change in acceleration of the force applied, well, again, this is basic kinematics. What happens is this: you feel something like an accelerometer, even in your phone, works because what's called a change in vector, which means you either change your direction or you change your scalar quantity, which is your magnitude, the applied force in some linear direction. So if I go faster, I'm accelerating. If I slow down, I'm accelerating, right? If I change my direction, if I move from like 1 degree, I'm accelerating. I am going to feel that. This is why you don't feel motion at a constant velocity or in constant direction. You don't feel the motion. If you did, then why is it when you're going 400 miles an hour in a plane, you don't notice it? You don't notice it, you take a dive. You hit turbulence, what happens? You changed your vector. You took a downward vector, right? Or you're an upward, or whatever way it's shaking you. That's why you feel it. If you're not changing your any kind of acceleration, then you're not going to notice it. There's no law in physics that says you're going to notice motion.
And if we can just get
by the way,
back to the you
Right.
saying
Here's the thing.
Wait, one sec, Draven, 1 sec. I just wanted to. You were saying that you should be able to see some curve, therefore the angle, right? So
you should be able to save it. Yes.
Yeah. So look at this picture on the
point of view.
Look at this picture on the screen. Is that a nice flat level? You know, they're not the same thing, flat and level. But is that a nice flat surface that you're seeing there?
I can see the picture. Thank
right?
you. Yeah, I can see the picture.
And it looks like it's flat. Yeah. Right,
yeah,
now,
it may look like it.
Yeah, because you're really close to it. Now, that's what it actually is. It's a ball.
Okay, and yes, I've seen that picture too.
If you are so small compared to the ball, then you're not going to see the curve. We are microbes to this basketball.
If that's the case, then how are you able to say that they can see the curvature on the beach? That would be an impossibility.
Okay, right. So the difference between seeing the curvature and seeing the effects of curvature are a big thing. What we can see at the beach is ships going over the horizon, which is the effect of curvature. It's not actually seeing the curvature. So if I could just bring up this picture, bear with me 1 sec. Where is it?
Same thing
if
with the
you
beach,
can see ships go over the horizon, if you're able to see ships go over the horizon, then you lied about the size of what Earth is. Because if you can notice then you should be able to notice.
Okay, right. So based on the maths of the size of our planet, right? You could there's an equation that you can use to actually figure out the distance to the horizon from you. And when you are 6'1", the horizon, I think it's 3.1 kilometers away. Okay, that matches the maths of our ball. So we're not lying. This is actually what matches up. And what we can see here in the photo on the screen is the effects of curvature. You can quite clearly see the whole of one boat, but a boat that is further away, half of it is obstructed. It's disappeared. So that is the effects of curvature. You're not going to actually
seeing the curvature, you're seeing the effects of it.
Yeah.
The difference.
The only way that you would see the actual curvature is if you were literally in space, high enough to get that. And you have to be really high. Even like 120,000 feet, it's going to be the tiniest bit of curvature because we are so fucking small and our planet is fucking massive.
Right. Now I have a question because you did make a claim and you said let me because it has to do with something the new guy said. What was your name? I got Dre Bone. What was the other guy? Was it Ray?
Ray, yeah.
Okay, yes. Ray. Yeah, you said that if that was the case, then the numbers they give for us about the size of the ball would be completely wrong or completely false or would be impossible. I can't remember the exact words you used. What is the math that would be? What is the math then that would be correct? If that math that we have that says that at 6 foot of viewer height you should see approximately 3 or 3.1 miles based on a radius of 4,000 miles. I mean, where in that math that we have that uses, I think it's just basic Pythagorean theorem, where in that math are we incorrect?
Ray, that's directed towards you.
Yes. Okay. I would say more so on that part. I don't know because we wasn't given the measurements of the picture that you just showed, so I wouldn't know how to tell you exactly on that when it comes to the maths of that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like in a I think the general idea was to say that if you were standing at the beach, you would see the effects of curvature by watching boats go over a horizon and disappear from the bottom first. And I believe your response was, if what they've told us about the size of the Earth is correct, then that would be impossible because of the math. So all I'm asking is what part of our math, which is based on simple Pythagoras theorem, would say that that would be impossible to make any kind of observation at any given viewer height.
No, I was just saying, because Dre said that you'd be able to see the, like the building or whatever he was referring to tilting. I was comparing that to that. So, but again, though, I wasn't giving the measurements on that, so I really can't tell you either side. But I would say, like, my argument on that wasn't about the ship. I was talking more about how people, without seeing any form of ships or whatever like that in the ocean, they were still able to point out curvature where there was none. So how do we explain that?
You wouldn't point out curvature if you're standing at the beach. What you would see is the effects of curvature. Now, the thing about here's the thing about the horizon that you have to understand on a sphere. If you were to stand in a spot and spin 360 degrees, the horizon should be flat, because the horizon for you is literally a cross-section of that globe. And a cross-section is a 2D shape, it's a circle. So the horizon for you is flat, and that's what we expect it to be.
That's a very good point. You're taking a two-dimensional cross-section from your eyes going out, right? You're subtending from near the angle, which means that you're basically going like that, okay? I'm going to make it very simple, I guess. So I'm shooting out laser beams, right? If I'm looking at a horizon, that would form a two-dimensional circle. If I just kind of spun around, I'm shooting out laser beams. It would be two-dimensional. That's what your horizon is. It's a two-dimensional cross-section of reality is basically where your horizon would be if you're looking at eye level. Because I can shoot lasers from my eyes now.
And Draybone, I would love to do that. Draybone, I see you have a spare over there.
I got a question too.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Here. Okay, so
after him, I have a question after him.
Okay, very nice.
Okay, so yeah. Now, I was stating about tools that I've used earlier as well too. Y'all ever heard of a leveler, right?
Yes, I'm an engineer.
Okay, so like this. You know, this is also a tool that you can use for a flat and arm rotating Earth as well. You just put it on the ground, and then the liquids, the bubbles right there, is the reason why we actually be arm rotate, because it goes by movement.
Seriously. Is he serious?
Yeah.
Is he actually a flat earther? Okay.
No, I genuinely think he is a flat earther.
I don't think you're for it.
He hasn't had much exposure to debates or proper arguments, so he's still got a lot of the basic.
Nice, but
let me ask you a question, Draybone. Draybone, let me ask you a question. Is there anything? Yeah, is there anything that is affecting that's influencing that water and air bubble on the inside? Is there anything outside influencing it, or is it a completely contained system of water and air only on the inside?
See, there would be something actually affected and outside if I'm moving my arms. That's how it would be affected.
No. I think no. I'm saying, like, I'm trying to walk you through this argument without jumping to a conclusion here. The bubble on the inside of that bubble level that you're using, is that bubble or that water influenced by, can you touch that bubble or water with your hands in any way, shape, or form? Or do you have to crack that open to get to the water and the air?
You would probably have to crack it open, right? And it would be alcohol.
Okay,
actually,
so when,
excuse me.
Okay, so
water.
when you
it's
turn
alcohol.
it upside, okay, yeah, liquid. We'll just say liquid. Now, when you're holding it in one orientation and then you flip it 180 degrees, why does the bubble move to a different portion of that container? Why does it rise back up to the top? There's nothing on the inside influencing it. It's in a position. It shouldn't move. Okay, when you spin it, you're applying centrifugal force, so it's going to force it outwards. It shouldn't force it to. It should stay exactly in the same spot, and when you go to the other side, it should stay down at the bottom. There's nothing influencing it unless something does actually influence it, like gravity.
gravity. And by the way,
So
you
why
just
would
You see what I'm
gravity
saying, though? The
not-
bubble.
So why would the gravity not actually be affecting this on the inside? I mean, you're stating that the
It
actual
is.
bubble is floating to the top. Now,
Yeah, that's
right?
because buoyancy is.
No,
a
no,
thing.
no, no. Hold on. No, I'm not saying the bubble is floating to the top. What I'm saying is that the liquid on the inside is being pulled down harder than the air.
Oh, it's going down.
So the
Okay,
air
so
is being
liquid's-
pulled down as well. The air is being pulled down as well, but the water being more dense is being pulled down with a greater force than the air on the inside. And that's what makes the air
how
go
would
to
the
the
actual
highest
air-
point.
Can I
So
note here, by the
how would
way,
the
you
air
mentioned
sorry?
buoyancy
pulled
earlier.
down, though?
I know we got a little
Yeah,
bit lighter.
Air is always
Yeah.
be lighter than water.
Can I
You see
can I,
what I'm
But
saying?
lighter in
That
hold on,
wouldn't
hold
really
on.
make
Light,
any sense.
go ahead,
the,
Steve.
the it's kind of critical. The buoyancy formula. Have you ever seen the buoyancy formula? The buoyancy formula has a very specific letter in it. That letter represents gravity. It's called G, small g. Okay? Small g is the force of gravity, 9.806 meters per second squared, registers for standard gravity. That is actually in the buoyancy formula. You cannot have buoyancy without the little letter g, without gravity. It doesn't work. So if you ever do any type of mathematics or physics and you want to use buoyancy, you have to factor in gravity at 9.806 meters per second squared, or it's not going to work. So how is it that gravity and buoyancy are now that's it right there. So 9.806 meters per second squared for standard gravity. How is it that you have to factor this in if buoyancy is equivalent to gravity? There's obviously other factors involved. I'm sure you know fluid density, right? Which is mass per
Don't
unit
make that
volume.
assumption, Steve.
Okay, well, you mentioned density. Density is just basically how many grams you have something over your cubic centimeter or meters that you're using. So it's mass over volume. Fluid density would be the same thing for a fluid. Then you have other factors involved when you're talking about how much volume is being displaced, because that's what buoyancy is. So how is it that you have to use gravity to use the buoyancy formula?
I'm actually looking up the buoyancy formula right now, and it does not actually mention the word gravity in it.
Well, there's
He has it right there. He has
RV,
it.
it's rho. Hold on.
9.806
Let me let me go ahead and interject just for a second. The actual force for the buoyant force is rho VA. Okay. Now we always substitute A for G in a natural environment because gravity is an accelerating force. Now, if you were to take an object and fill it with two different density liquids and spin it in a circle like a centrifuge, let's say, then what that will do is it will generate more force than the gravitational force pulling down, and it becomes a vector at that point, what Steve was talking about earlier. It's just two different vectors. You have one...
Your rho is going to be very important in that particular equation,
right.
too. Your different densities you're going to have. This is why you have if you looked at a drink and they have layers, that's because of different densities, fluid densities.
Yeah,
that's your rho.
So
because gravity is acting on at different levels.
So talking about like the way gravity works and stuff, Drabo, and I've actually got a specific question for you, which kind of came from me watching your video on your channel, and that was to do with accelerometers in phones. And the fact that obviously they can orientate themselves to down. Do you know how an accelerometer in a phone... Ray, sorry, I'm going to mute you until we need to talk because there's just a lot of background noise, right?
Rho VA. Rho VA. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Rho VA. I get that. That's good. That's genius. That's genius. I'm using that. I'm stealing that. That's
right. Yeah. So do you know how the accelerometers in phones work?
Okay. So this is how the accelerometers in the phone would actually work. And here, I'm going to give you the definition for a second. Just give me one moment. See
Hey,
how
can I,
the accelerometer
can I ask you
would
to do
one sec,
one
team,
thing?
one sec. Let him do this.
Well, I don't want him to read the thing. I want him to explain it to us.
Okay.
I don't want him to read off what's on the screen. I want him to explain it from his understanding.
Yeah, right. That makes a big difference, I think.
Well, usually when I read about an accelerometer on the phone, okay, it is usually the gyroscope feature that you would actually use. You know how on your phone where you do the what's that called there? Where you hit your phone, the phone calibration there. right?
Yeah.
Where you actually get your
Yeah,
phone to
like
actually.
Solarium has that, or Sky things you have to calibrate it to.
That's usually what the calibration on your phone where you actually try to get it back in sync with each other. That's usually what I would be thinking of when it comes to the accelerometers of the phone.
Right. Okay. So
You
here's
see
the
what I'm
thing
saying?
They all
about
work the same way.
accelerometers on phones. They're very specific types, and they're called silicon sensing accelerometers. And this is how they work. The actual bit that's moving is these yellow bands at the side, and they're made of silicon. And that is what is responding to gravity. So as the phone is turned, gravity will pull on the blue mass and make it move, and they will make the electrodes touch inside. So the only thing that's happening is as this is turned in orientation, there is a force acting on this blue bit, which is then telling the phone which direction it's on. So how does that work with density and buoyancy?
And by the way, I can give you
that
guys a
one-
really good video on this. There's a video that actually explains this in detail, how this actually works
Yeah.
as far as the accelerometer, your
But,
seismic mass, and then your housing area.
I would very much like to, either Ray or Draybone, how does density and buoyancy explain the function of a silicon sensing accelerometer?
I could talk about this shit
Either-
for days.
either of
I
you,
love
Draybone?
talking about-
Yeah, and I put the video that
Show
explains
us.
it in the video in the chat. It's a good video.
Yeah. You got any explanation for that, Draybone or Ray?
I said you can show this.
Sorry?
No, I personally don't.
Yeah, you show us. You know what I'm saying?
What?
And then I'll have a question right after that too. After
Okay.
you show.
Oh, did you
said
say
that.
you want to?
How
You
you
want us to explain it? I'm sorry, you kind of cut out right there.
Yeah, and then afterward, then I'm going to have an actual
All right,
question
team,
for
do you want to
Well,
do you want to explain it?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what that is, what you're looking at is what's called a frame of reference. Okay, so it is when it's not like all just in its natural state of like being in a neutral position, you know, with like let's say the gold bars on the end. Okay, when they're not straight up and down, they're under the influence of a fictitious force. That means they're in a non-inertial frame of reference. So this machine, depending upon that deflection, can measure the amount of force that's being applied in that frame of reference, okay? So that is what it measures. Now, when you drop it, for instance, or if, let's say, you start accelerating, you know when you accelerate in a car, you feel that pull backwards, like at a light. When you take off, you kind of feel a pull backwards, right? That's what it's measuring. It's measuring that pull that we feel going towards the Earth. If you take one of these accelerometers, and let's say you were to calibrate it to say to give you a 0 reading for gravity instead of 9.8, and then you accelerated 10 meters per second forward, you would get a reading on your accelerometer of 10.8 meters in the opposite direction, or negative 10 meters in the opposite direction.
And to be a little more specific, the way these actually we work from an electronic point of view is that those plates have an electrostatic field between them, and there's a change in what's called capacitance. These are things that are actually known as capacitive, capacitive accelerometers or vibration sensors is basically what they're called. But they're called capacitive accelerometers because you're changing the capacitance between those two particular plates. That's how it detects actually makes a signal. Do you know what a capacitor is? Because I would highly recommend at least go looking at basic electronics to learn what a capacitor is. To say, okay, I have two charged plates. I have electrostatic field between them. And these are, by the way, very small microns. I think it's like 20 micron for these things. Are very small.
They're very small.
These are small plates. So any minor change is going to be picked up and then amplified through a system of electronics by that change of capacitance. That's how these things work electronically. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, you're going to describe how they work. At least understand the capacitive effects.
Yeah.
Of these things.
So the reason that I brought this up is that there is no way that density and buoyancy can explain the function of this
Right.
silicon-based, capacitance-based accelerometer, it can only work if there is a force giving,
Correct.
making it move. That's there has to be something physically making that blue bit move to register what's going on.
Remember, objects tend to stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, or stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. That's actually what a force is. Something that changes the vector of something. That's kind of how a force is described, defined, is to be a change in vector or magnitude. So unless you have a physical thing moving, unless you have something changing it, buoyancy has nothing to do with it. You need an actual change of motion. That is what is causing that accelerometer to pick up and change capacitance, which is then picked up into a signal.
So, for instance,
And you guys could do this at home.
Yeah.
There are accelerometer apps on your phone that you can download, and it will, as soon as you download it, the first thing you'll notice is that any orientation you hold that phone in, it's going to read 9.8 towards the ground always. And then if you drop that
That's why they
phone
want
and
you to
let it
move it,
free
though.
fall, it will What's that?
I was going to say, when you do
What'd you say,
calibrations,
Steve?
that's why they want you to move it back and forth.
Yeah.
When you calibrate those things, like for example, I have a Sky program that I'll use, and it sometimes asks for calibration. You have to rotate it in one plane, rotate it in another plane, and that's how it calibrates, because you have different planes you got to rotate it, so it gets a signal from the satellite to where the accelerometer is going to be translated to say, okay, this is where you are with respect to the stars, so it can put the right star there. If you take it and go like this and go, oh look, that star is this. That's, or else it wouldn't be a useful program. But learning this stuff is a lot to learn here.
Yeah.
It's not just physics. It's not just math, and it's not just electronics. These are in-depth subjects to understand a lot of this stuff. You just can't do it by reading Wikipedia or something, man, or to do your research. I mean, it takes a little more than that.
So I mean,
So now with that,
Sorry, go on.
with being said, I got a question now
Yeah.
too. So since you said you want to do more than research and things like that, have any of y'all? We're talking about cell phones here now. Cell phones have technology, right? Have any of y'all actually used your cell phone? Actually done any type of recording with your cell phones and seen any type of satellites that was actually in space or anything like that? I mean, we could
sorry,
see all
wait. So you're asking?
You can visually see the ISS going in front of the moon. Yes, have seen.
I've
it.
never
It's
seen
recorded.
that, and I actually look at the moon all the time. I've never seen that happen.
Have you heard of Red's rhetoric?
Yeah, he actually had a hangout.
Here's the thing.
I know we got a delay.
Here's the
It's
thing,
horrible.
though. We have the actual. We have any actual pictures that we've took directly off of our phones to do this.
Yes,
that's
right.
my question.
Let me explain this. Right. We actually had a hangout. I was part of this hangout. Well, let me finish. We had a hangout with Red's Rhetoric, where a flat earther, I don't know if it was the vegan atheist or who was what, I don't remember his name. Team Skeptic might remember. But he came on and he had filmed the ISS from his phone, but didn't believe that it was the ISS. Well, we actually took that image and we put it, and somebody put it through a filters and some other programs. And when they compared it to the model of what the orientation of the ISS would be at that given time through a blur filter, they were identical. I mean, so yes, you
Are
can
you
use
sure?
a phone to take pictures.
Because I mean,
Why do I keep getting asked out of my?
Yes.
yeah,
Sure.
I would
Yes.
actually
there.
see the actual picture, though.
I just
I
want you guys
actually want to see the
It's on
actual
your Twitter channel,
from your phone. If that's the case, I would like to see like an actual.
Well, you asked for an example of it. Go watch the hangout. I have a shitty phone.
Okay.
My phone's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But
Look,
his phone.
I mean,
Yeah, you just said.
I'll have to hang
Hold-
out
hold
still,
on.
but
Let me
I
interject.
would have actually
Wait,
brought it here.
One
me
sec,
interject just
let
for a
Team
second.
respond.
Let me interject for just 1 second.
I'm
You're
sorry,
asking
go
if we
ahead.
have done it on our phones. We're not a problem. We are asking if we've done it on our phones. We're saying yes, we've seen it done by our friends in Hangouts. We've had them film it with not just phones, which if anything, Flat Earther did it and gave it to us and we did. If anything, the phones would be the easiest ones to fool. We've had it done with analog, what are they called? Telescopes. We've had them done with analog telescopes. I mean, we've done it so many different times.
He remembers. By the way, Sean Hufford is in the
Yeah, I
live
mean,
chat. He remembers that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not if you're telling us that
I
we
would
have
like
to
to see
do it,
it,
and we
though.
say that, and you're willing to accept me doing it, and I'm telling you I've seen it, I've accepted them. Why can you not accept the fact that we've seen it done with other people's phones?
And why does it
And you
have
can
to
do it
be a
yourself.
phone? Like, why would you want to use your phone to try and capture these things when there's better equipments out there?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
Rhetoric did
like,
a fan movie.
I'll agree there are better equipment out there. We'll agree. But your phone does have pretty good technology. You can't actually say the phone does not have good enough technology to actually record this.
Well,
Do you know what
yeah,
you're
but it's
trying-
not
the
going to be
size
as
of
good
what
as.
you're trying to look at?
I would actually want that picture myself.
My phone
You
might.
understand
I'm not.
what
I'm not
saying?
go out and do this. I don't care enough. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I don't care. You go just spend the time doing it.
Let's
If you wish
say-
to, why don't you go out and try it?
So, if we could just
Yeah,
quickly look at
like I said,
Draven, one sec.
I was
So,
hoping that this live stream would have worked on my phone, so that we would have actually did some actual live streaming out on the sky. You know what I'm saying? But I'm
Okay.
doing this on the computer, unfortunately.
So
I got to tell you.
Can
Oh,
I just
go
say that I don't think that the phone is a good thing to use anyway. But if I
I
could
don't
quickly
either.
just
But
show
how
you,
about a powerful
if
camera?
I could show you a video of someone actually using a camera to capture the ISS going across the moon. I just think that's a good reference point for you to see.
Much better.
The
Yeah,
International
much better.
Space
By the way,
Station is supposed to transit the moon in about 10 minutes or so.
This
So we'll
live?
see what we can do tonight
No, this was
with
what
the
Red's
full moon
Rhetoric
and a
recorded.
Nikon P900.
Oh.
Let's see
Yeah,
if
this
we
has
can
a million
piss off
views.
more flat earthers.
Yeah,
No, is this the one with a million views or the other one? Just this one, yeah.
yeah, this one does.
Because this was taken. There's
This
two
got
actual.
3.5 million views.
There
I
was
was about
two
to say it's a
observational
lot more than a
points.
million.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Reds had an observation
Awesome.
point, and Astronomy Live had an observation point, and they were able to
Nice.
compare
Yeah.
and show that this was actually the ISS at a certain height.
And Reds is he's the one that like gets the best shots of all this stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the ability to do this. I mean,
No.
it's just not my skill set. Sorry.
I
Reds is
would
God.
like to point out. I would like to point out that he's using a camera that's designed for, enhanced imagery, like very, very high detailed imagery versus what you were claiming is your cell phone being used.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
just
thing
so
is
that-
the size
the
of a
cell phone
football
doesn't have
field. How far is it away? Is it 400 kilometers away? Is that
Seven-
what it's approximately? What is it?
I can't
It's-
remember.
Go
I thought
ahead,
it was
fight
about
the flutter.
250 miles.
I can't remember exactly. No, it's moving at
250 miles.
17,000
Okay,
kilometers
so-
an hour.
Dre Bones, if you were trying to photograph a football field at 200 miles away, do you think you'd get a better photograph with any phone out on the market today or a P900? An outdated
Even
camera.
if you use the P900, and I do, like I was saying, I know that an actual camera is going to take better pictures than a phone, but you cannot say that your phone doesn't have the capability of
No,
the
it
actual
probably
technique.
does. It probably does. Well, it depends on your phone. My
Think
phone
about
is
it.
kind
They
of a piece of crap.
actually do use the phones at 60 frames per second. They can even go up to 240 frames per second now.
But
And this
he's
is
on a-
not
but he's
It's
on
not
a-
about the
I-
frames per second, though.
Hang on.
Yeah.
It's about the megapixels.
still on a
It's
better
not about
tripod.
the frames per second.
And-
Yeah,
have
yeah.
more-
I'm talking about also video recording with it as well. You know, and now megapixel wise, you probably have a 16 megapixel camera. Most phones probably higher than that now. But I'm with
What's the
the
optical
frame
zoom?
rate here as well.
But what's
And I
the
am
optical
looking at the
zoom?
picture that you're showing here, and I can already see that it's actually not a real image. I can actually
Oh, that's a
look
real
at
image.
it.
No, that's
Oh no, that is a real. That was taken with.
We've already-
I mean, let's
No.
go back
Oh
to the
man,
beginning.
I'd
Look,
love
look,
to hear the science.
No, I'm not
Got it.
talking about
Right.
that movie.
Draybone,
I'm talking
Draybone.
about,
Here's him using the camera to
was not an
record
image.
that. So are you saying that the actual image of the space station isn't real, but you? So Reds did record it, but he recorded something that isn't real. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I don't know what FPS has
Oh,
to do with
yeah.
anything.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
you're looking-
going to
hang
say
on, hang on,
about
hang
the
on.
ISS.
I know we have lag here.
Something
I get something.
different.
Yeah. One sec, Steve. Let him say what he's going to say. Sorry, Draybone, go on.
Okay. So The reason why I'm gonna say it wasn't the ISS, I mean, I've heard how fast the ISS could actually move, things like that, and I know I mentioned about slowing your phone down to 240 frames per second, right? Or just any regular camera. You know, the better cameras out there would do better than your phone would. So I'm looking at this image here, and I'm actually looking at what's supposed to be the ISS. You don't even have a real clear picture of this actually at all. It should be a little bit bigger. That ISS picture should be a lot bigger than it should be. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Based on
It
what?
shouldn't be
Based on
that
what?
small.
Okay, right. So here's the
And then
thing.
it should actually be a lot wider than that.
One sec, Draybone. Right. So Red's Rhetoric and another YouTuber called Astronomy Live actually both witnessed the transit at the same time, and they placed themselves a kilometer apart. Now, using only their images of the transit and their distance apart, they were able to calculate not only the orbital height of the ISS, but the speed that it was going. And they got pretty much spot on. How close was it, Steve?
And not just that, I think we have a couple miles.
Yeah.
I think they can determine like 330. The ISS is around 250 miles. I think they got to 235 or something. I remember the video.
Yeah.
But well within the proper range. But the more important I thought was they both experienced the view at a different viewing angle, showing parallax, what they would expect at the ISS at that height, with the frame of reference being the moon. You look at the transit from Astronomy Live to this transit that Red's had. They're on a different path as to be expected, and yet no flat earther can explain that. It's just not physically possible for them to explain it. So when you're throwing all these things out there, Draybone, but the problem is nothing what you're saying has anything to do with science or physics or anything to do with reality. You're just throwing what's called argumentum ad incredulity. You're just having an incredulous experience saying this cannot be, but everything about physics and science is saying that you're wrong. Matter of fact, if you did what's called a ELI of this particular image, and you looked at it through the specific way to test to see if it's fake, you'll see that image is quite very real.
I'm actually looking at it. The ISS wasn't real. I've already studied it. I've even had people that's done engineering school and things like that. They said that it doesn't work. Now, you want to talk from a science perspective, right? Do you know how hot metal really gets? I mean,
yes.
You did research on the actual.
I took metallurgy.
Research on actual metal, and then you did the research on the atmosphere. Correct?
Do you know the difference between? Can I ask you a question? Do you know the difference between heat and temperature?
Yeah, everyone, stop 1 sec. Stop.
No,
Team.
Steve. Let Steve go. He's been waiting with a question.
Go on, Steve.
Okay.
Okay. So let me explain to you something when it comes to temperature. Temperature is what's called kinetic energy over some kind of space. I'm gonna try to dumb this down, guys. So please, I'm not gonna go into my usual spiel. But what kinetic energy is basically the energy due to motion, 1/2 mv squared. If you want.
Be right back.
But it's basically what's happening is this: temperature is an overall picture of this energy, this kinetic energy. And so when you have something at 3,000 degrees Celsius in the troposphere or in the ionosphere or wherever you're claiming in the mesosphere, when you have a satellite that is at that temperature, it's not that the satellite's at that temperature. What you're saying is that every particle, on the average, has a certain amount of kinetic energy to it. But since they're at vacuum, you have a very low density. So your energy density is going to be very small in this region. It's very similar. If you take your hand and put it in a 400-degree oven, you can do it for a few seconds and you're not going to even notice it. You stick your hand in 400-degree water, well, assuming that you could at room temperature. I understand that it won't be water at room temperature, but this is hypothetical. If you put your hand in even 212-degree Fahrenheit or 100-degree Celsius water, it's going to burn instantly because it's denser. Water is denser than gas. And at vacuum, we have a low pressure, such low rarefied gas, there's not enough kinetic energy to be imparted by these molecules when they hit you to do any damage because it's at vacuum. So even though the average is at the high kinetic energy of these things, it's at vacuum. It's a very low density. That is why it doesn't matter. You're still going to freeze. I don't know how else to dumb it down. Steam, you could try at that point, but
And
there's not enough particles to transfer energy.
But
I mean, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay,
If you have two particles and they're moving very fast, they're not going to impart much energy. But if you have a million particles, you're going to impart a lot more energy, right? That's why you're not going to burn up. That's why these metals don't get hot. There's just not enough energy transfer.
So, and that's another reason why we know the ISS is in space, because if the ISS was in our atmosphere, going at 17,000 kilometers an hour, it would be on fire. But it's not, because it's not against any friction.
Wait,
Let
the
me
moon
ask
is in the
Bones
Earth.
and Ray a question real quick.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Ray just said something which I've not had a chance to discuss with flat earthers yet. Sorry, Ray, could you please say that again?
Yes. I was saying that the moon is within the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, and could you tell me what that means?
Let me see. How can I explain it? Essentially, okay, it is within the. I guess I want to say in the sky of Earth. I guess I want to say.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how to.
During the 90s,
So it's not in space.
Yeah, during the 90s, NASA collected a whole lot of data about how far our atmosphere extends. Going back over that data in the past few years, they discovered that the actual outer layers of our atmosphere do extend further than we originally thought. However, when they say that the moon is within our atmosphere, they don't mean that it's in the atmosphere that we can all sit here and breathe. They literally mean that it's in a diffuse cloud of hydrogen.
Yeah, it's very rarefied.
Yeah. Yes, it's technically our atmosphere, but it's the outer layers of atmosphere. There's probably a couple of atoms of hydrogen every few meters or something, you know?
But I mean, there might be drag, but I mean, even still, I mean, the moon is actually moving away from
the atmosphere. The atmosphere on the moon is 0.2
so rare,
molecules per cubic meter.
That's nothing. That's not even causing any drag.
One molecule for every 5 cubic meters of space.
That's ridiculously small. That's so rarefied. Again, one particle is not going to impart much energy, right? This is why it's so rarefied.
Yeah, you could have a million. You could have a million-degree particle. You could have that one particle could be 1,000,000 degrees, and it could go right by you, and you'd never even know it.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing with cosmic rays. We have cosmic rays that are very, very high energetic cosmic rays. Some of them can pass through you. The WOW particle was was an example. So you can have a very highly energetic meson strike you or a photon strike you. It's not going to do any real damage because it's isolated and it's one particle. Now you had concentrated muon striking you. It wasn't a meson, it was a muon. But if you have concentrated muon striking you, that's going to do some biological damage, just like you have a lot of gamma rays burning through you. That's going to do a lot of cellular damage. But if you just have one photon at that energy level, how much damage is that going to do? That's the difference.
So yeah, my point is, the reason why I wanted for you to actually say that, Ray, and have this conversation is because that is a perfect example of what flat earthers do. They see a headline, Earth is within Moon's atmosphere, and then go, well, that proves everything we've been saying, without actually reading the article. Because if you had even read the first paragraph of that article, you would have known that it didn't mean it was literally in our atmosphere that we could breathe. But
news headlines
all you did there, all you did was you read the title and you didn't look any further into it. Just like
just like the paper that you brought up when it came to the aircraft, the derivation and definition of linear aircraft model. I know you didn't read that paper, man. I know you never even looked at it. I guarantee you've never looked at it. Oh, you looked at it. Well, I guarantee that you didn't know any of that math.
Sure.
Dre Bones, can I ask you a question? Why does it say consider the aircraft a rigid body?
That's a good question. But why is it a rigid body as opposed to a non-rigid?
Why do they say consider the aircraft? Why do they say consider the aircraft a rigid body?
What's the difference for a hard body? What's a rigid versus non-rigid for a hard body?
Okay, so usually when it's rigid, that's usually what a solid does, and this is what they also say in the definition of the.
Wrong.
No, listen,
Wrong. We'll just stop there. But you're wrong. You're fundamentally wrong.
Yeah,
that's not what it means.
Just listen, because they actually do use the word rigid when it comes to the definition of properties of a liquid, right? It says that a solid actually remains rigid, whereas a liquid freely flows. You see what I'm
You
saying?
understand
That's not what a rigid body is.
Team, I can hear you
Okay.
being frustrated at that.
But hang on.
Listen,
This is where
go ahead.
This is where your understanding is just, you're going off the rails because you've never looked at any of this stuff. For a rigid body, when you're talking about hard bodies, you're talking about something that doesn't have any kind of either plastic deformation or any kind of what's called Young's modulus, where you have a stress and strain relationship. You have very little deformation of compression or on the X or Y axis of any kind of deformation. That's what we mean by a hard body rather than a soft body. Soft bodies will have inelastic collisions more differently than a hard body. If you ever do any kind of simulation, you drop something that's a softball like a basketball, it's going to bounce. You drop a thing like lead, it doesn't bounce so much because of the rigidity factor that you're talking about. So when we're talking about a hard, rigid body, we're talking about something that's inflexible, that's non-deformational, that has no compression ability on the linear axis or stress or strain. Where if you try to move it like this, right, you try to pull it apart, your tensile strength, that is going to have some kind of deformation to it. But a rigid body is going to have a less degree of more degree of rigidity than a soft body, right? I can pull apart bubble gum more than I can a bar of iron, right? This is when it comes to metallurgy and things of that nature. So when we're talking about rigid body, that's what it means.
Yeah. Now,
well, hold on. There's also a second explanation to that. Okay, why it says considered a rigid body is because it's talking about length contraction and time dilation. Okay, those are things that we go through. We experience them.
But time dilation, length contraction, is your rigidity for special relativity.
Exactly, and that's why it says you to consider it a non-rigid body, to consider it a flat and motionless Earth, to consider all these things because of your reference frame, okay? Because we're not going to get into an airplane and see an airplane shrink in size immediately because we're relatively traveling the same speed as the airplane, even if the airplane is traveling at 1,000 miles per hour faster than we are. So we're still going through space at relatively the same speed. So we just don't consider these things. That's what it's saying, to make the assumption. Does the plane shrink? Absolutely. It goes through length contraction. We will never be able to tell it because it's such a small amount of length contraction due to relativity, because we're also moving with the plane. But we don't need to complicate things by taking into consideration the minute length contraction that goes on in the plane relative to the observer on the Earth. It's easier for us to just assume everything. Well, yeah, that's why I asked him, please explain what a rigid body is.
This is exactly right, because this is talking about compression, right? You know, or which is called Lorentz contraction. This is why I wanted him to understand special theory relativity, because when you start going at higher speeds, okay, there's something called the Lorentz factor that factors in. It's a very simple formula: 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus v squared divided by c squared. Something that everybody should know because it's used in mathematics and physics ubiquitously. But that's a very famous formula, and what that's telling you is that the faster you go, the shorter you get. Things tend to contract. For a rigid body, obviously, things are going to contract, you know, under the faster you go for special relativity. So what they're saying is we don't need to factor any of that in. We're not going fast enough to take into account Lorentz contraction because of special theory relativity. These are why you have to understand what you're reading, and you have to go beyond just, oh, this is what it says. If you don't know the terminology, you're reading Chinese thinking it's Japanese. It's not making any sense to you because you don't have the basic understanding to what they're trying to say. I hope that you have any takeaway from this. That is your takeaway.
Yeah.
Because Team Skeptic gets it. He understands it. And I know Craig gets it most of the time. But that's because we wanted to learn these things. We had to learn these topics.
I do feel like we've gone quite heavily into science, and we're talking in a lot of terms that maybe Draybone and Ray aren't used to. So I'd like to ask a very simple question, and it's much more to do with maths. Draybone or Ray, this is both for you. So if I have a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1, what are the internal angles?
You said internal angles?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Said 1, 1, and 1. Okay. Internal angles, right?
why don't you make it a little easier? I was just saying, all the angles have to add up to a certain number for it to be a triangle.
Okay, so it would all be up to 180, right? For he says
Okay.
certain angles.
180
right?
divided by 3.
60.
Well done. Now,
there you go. Well, you were smarter than Anthony Riley.
and Flat Out Hero.
The flat out here, I don't remember. I get them all confused.
I asked him on Saturday, and it was incredible cricket. So that was fantastic. But
this is evidence that flat earthers don't watch flat earthers don't watch our videos, because we ask every flat earther the same question and nobody says 60 60 60. No one goes.
Well, I would have been impressed when he said, "Are you talking about Euclidean or non-Euclidean space?" I would have been like, "Yeah, go, man." You know, it's called. If I remember correctly, it's called a spherical defect.
60.
The difference between a triangle on a flat with on a sphere, I think that's called a spherical defect. Is a difference, if I'm not mistaken. Weird random shit that I.
But we've been going for like nearly 2.5 hours, so I think it's time to start wrapping this up. Now, as you two are the guests on my channel, Ray and DeBrone, I'd like to give you both just a few minutes to give any final thoughts. Ray, would you like to go first?
As of right now, I don't have anything to add right now. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining, Draven.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts for anybody?
Yes, I do have final thoughts here for everybody. Like I said, I'm going to be a flat earther for a reason. I do read it in the Bible. I do read all types of other stuff, just like the GPS. I was trying to show that Earth curvature calculator on here, but you said the camera wasn't even clear enough to do it here. I actually when I wanted to really do this live stream, I actually wanted to do a few experiments on here as well, like using liquids. Like the particular container here, I had a video on Facebook for how that actually happened, and then used the Bible with it. I used this actual CD tray to actually do it. I ain't gonna lie, but yeah, I was actually doing certain types of experiments here. Now, it's good that y'all did come with all the actual scientific terms and explain most of that stuff here, but as I was stating, though, I just cannot see us standing here living on a ball just because of physical science, and I do believe that you would have to actually move in order for you to actually feel the rotation of the Earth. I just don't get how you're able to know that the Earth is actually rotating and moving, and it's a spinning ball, when all our 5 senses is not able to do it by itself without technology. That's the whole thing. That's my main point on that. So that's part of the reason why I am always going to be a flat earther there. But I was glad to actually do this live stream with y'all guys. The other guys on Twitter, they didn't want to do it. I just don't understand why. I mean, they could have definitely explained it just like you guys could have on here. You know? I still want another debate in the future as well.
Yeah,
and that would pretty much happen.
If we can figure out a way to get your signal a bit better, then definitely. I've got one final question for you. Is there anything that we could say to you that would change your mind?
I would actually like to see a live stream from what y'all would actually do in the situation to find out if the Earth was round or flat. No, you know, actually do that live stream with the like do a live camera, live camcorder action. Your live stream of y'all taking the picture of the ISS.
Listen, hey Drayvon, I have a suggestion for you before I get on, or before we get to me and Steve doing our things. I have one suggestion for you. Fight the Flat Earth is about to do a worldwide experiment using just observations of the sun, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Fight the Flat Earth?
Yes.
Just observations of the sun. Anybody can participate in it. Why don't you test your beliefs? I challenge you to test your beliefs and participate in that experiment. be honest with yourself, because hey, it's not about what I can tell you to be truthful. It's all about what you can do for yourself. If you can test your own beliefs and your own convictions, then they'll either strengthen them or they'll get you off of an incorrect path.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. It's about self-education too, and I do try to tell people this as well. It's not just only about formal education, but it's about self-education too, because formal education is what somebody could tell you, whereas self-education is going to be what you've actually done too.
Okay. I'm sending out details tomorrow. Actually, I'll add you to the mailing list for it. There is well over 2,000 people that are involved, and basically all we're looking for is for you to stick a stick in the ground and measure the angle of a shadow when it's solar noon, cast from that stick. It's repeating Eratosthenes' experiment that he did over 2,500 years ago, where he got to within 10% of the currently accepted value of the circumference of the Earth, using just 2 points. So yeah, I'll add you.
By the way, Eratosthenes' experiment didn't actually show the Earth was round; it just disproved flat Earth. But you use 3 sticks, and you can actually show it's round.
Absolutely. But I want to thank both you and Ray for coming on. I'm going to read through the super chats now, so you're welcome to hang around while I do that, and then we'll get shut down.
Before you do that, I want to leave him with one thing to think about, because every time he says container and he brings up that container and he shows that on camera, I cringe a little bit, because I want you to go and I want you to really think about what holds that container together. Okay. Literally, this is a great question, because when you start to think about what's holding the container together, and then you start to take that to the next step, and then you can eventually find out and realize that the same thing that's holding that container together with nothing inside or a bunch of stuff inside, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing that's holding the atmosphere to the Earth. They're forces. If you take a balloon and you blow a balloon up to the point that the force of the air on the inside is pushing out stronger than the force of the bonds holding the balloon together, the balloon pops. This same thing happens on Earth. Okay, we have a force that's pulling down. That is the container. It is the force. And guess what? If you exceed that force pulling down, you will pop. You will go outside of the atmosphere. And that's exactly what we do with rocketry. We get enough force to send it to overcome the force pulling us back down, and we exit the container.
So, just the last question though. One more question. Okay, so with the container thing right here, when I used it, I mainly stated it for liquids. So how would it actually pop with the liquid though? That's my question on that.
Well,
then I'll let you ask it.
Well, the atmosphere is technically a fluid, so
liquids and gases are both.
Yeah, I understand that air is a fluid. Yeah, I know air is a fluid. I've read that too, but how would it actually pop from a liquid standpoint? That's where I'm getting the word container from. I use the word container for liquids. I know that air could be contained too. But from a liquid
think of it in a hydraulic. Think about it from a hydraulic point of view. Okay, you have an O-ring on a hydraulic system, right? And it's designed to be able to withstand a certain amount of pressure. All right, pressure is force per unit area. All right, so these are forces. When you press that liquid, like Steve was saying, it doesn't get smaller. It just applies more force outwards against the wall. So it pushes against the forces that are involved, right? And the O-ring will have a pressure, an amount of force that it can withstand before it breaks, before it degrades itself. So if you keep pressing that liquid together, let's say you had a hydraulic system that could continuously go higher and higher and higher forever. At some point, the pressure pushing out on the O-ring would overcome the O-ring's ability to hold itself together and keep the pressure inside.
I've seen this happen with gaskets.
I was about to say that, Steve.
Yeah, I mean,
gaskets,
I know he replaced.
I don't know why you use O-rings. Gaskets.
A gasket. Well, O-ring is a very similar type thing, but more likely gaskets could blow out. O-rings can obviously as well. But I know for a fact that Craig has probably handmade gaskets underway and probably had to use them for flanges, because I know I have using a punch. they do blow out. You do have to replace them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
All right,
And then how do what's it called, railroads work too? Because that's another reason why I'm a flat earther as well.
Okay, well, we don't need to get into that. We don't need to get into that. The simple answer for that is that land has contours. Okay, that's literally all you need to know. But I am going to read the super chats now because it's been going for quite a while. So let's start with 199 from Stephen Steen. Freemasons trying to kill the truth. Then another 199 from Stephen Steen. Kyle took 95% of your bandwidth. I think I love you, Stephen Steen.
Kyle steals from everybody, man.
$2 from Ranger Man 9404. Maybe a fix for his audio is listed in the Bible. I doubt it. It doesn't help with science. And $2 from Kristen Frost Laser Beams for a 9-volt battery. Lol. $1.99 from Carrie Bronson. For now, 99% of us think Earth is a banana. $1.99 again. We are both working to sway the banana earthers. More chance of that. $5 from Ranger Man 9404. I pulled PCs out of the trash that would work better than Andre's computer. $1.99 from Carrie Bronson. Prove the disc, not just disprove the globe. Yeah, they never do that. $5 Australian from John Rapp. Which of the authors of the Bible was a scientist? None. And $2 from Copernicus Thinker. His baby makes more sense than him. £2 from Solixus. If the Bible is true, then so is the Twilight Saga. Team Edward. $2 from Raven Zero. The beard guy just scienced the crap out of this guy. You're the beard guy, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And $100.
Did that one again?
It says for $2, the beard guy just scienced the crap out of him.
Oh, okay.
Hey, who said that? Who said that? That was
Raven Zero.
Funny.
Thank you, Raven.
Raven Zero. Okay.
And then 100 Australian dollars from Aussie Globehead. Craig, I want my brain cells back. Ask NASA; they might be able to help. $5
Aussie
from
Globehead was dead at one point. I think he's going to lose his shit and basically somebody's going to die. I think he's watching stuff.
$5 from Mama Murder 73. Check out her channel, by the way. Car going over hill bottom up is like Horizon. Tennis ball equal 1 drop of water, equivalent for scale or thereabouts. $6.66 from Ranger Man 9404. Never mind turning his camera off, turn his brain on. 10 Rons from Lucia and Andreas. Tell him to turn off his PC. Maybe that will fix it. $5 from Harry SK. Dre and Ray, with your model, the sun will be visible at all times. Why can't you use a telescope or P900s to follow its path over other continents? Magic. $5 from Jeffrey Graydrak. I actually feel sorry for flat earthers. They're missing out on so much cool stuff because reasons, and CGI, and NASA. And $5 from Rangeman 9404. How did all of this go in one ear and out the other for the Flerf? I thought sound didn't travel through a vacuum like the one between his ears. $2 from Copernicus Thinker. He's currently too uneducated to do experiments. $5 from B-Ball for Life. If the sun is circling above the surface of flat Earth, then why do we not see it turn right as it sets? Reasons. And another $5 from B-Ball for Life. Why do we have rotating star patterns on North and South Pole? Magic again. I'll just check there was no more. I think that was the last one. Oh, and $5 from the Athens 619. We use our senses to know the Earth is flat. Blind people know that the Earth doesn't exist. That reasoning is debunked. And $1 from Fart Rhino with no message. Thank you very much, guys. That's been a very interesting discussion tonight, and I want to thank Draybone. You can find him on Twitter, Draybone777, or on YouTube, also with the same name, Draybone777. Thank you, Draybone, for coming on, and thank you for bringing your friend Ray.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
And as always, team, it's a pleasure to have you on. And Steve, welcome to the channel. You are always welcome, my friend.
Yeah, I'll drop by more often. I mean, I don't know how productive these things are. No disrespect to the flat earthers, but I know from experience they don't listen. They don't want to learn. I don't know why that is. I think somebody pointed out that they miss out on so much. There's so much wonder out there, and there's so much to understand. And when you start really learning the truth about physics and the truth about reality and things of that nature, at least how we should better understand these things, it opens up a whole different understanding of the world and how we look at things. And to limit yourself by buying into just a BS narrative that's only run by a handful of people that are dishonest on the internet, like Jeranism and a few other people that I believe are straight up con man, like Eric DeBay, that this is something that is affecting people in dumbing them down to the point where they're never going to be successful as far as understanding science and physics and in the majesty of the universe. And I think you should spend more time forgetting about flat Earth and just take some physics courses or open a book on physics or talk to people like Craig or Team.
Gained over 100 subs today. We will. I think we're going to have to, Steve. Definitely. But yeah, thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. Means the world that we've had 500 people watching this debate today, and honestly, every sub, every like, every super chat, every interaction on my channel means the world to me and makes me want to keep doing this more and more. And I will see you very soon. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat. 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 Fight the flat.